Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Bradford. Alongside me is Logan Camden. And now that we are officially into the post-All-Star break stretch of the season, the home stretch of the NBA season, we're going to be doing a little check-in on a lot of teams around the NBA with a buy or sell episode. Logan and I each have 3 teams or players potentially that we are buying or selling on. So we are going to highlight the teams that we think are maybe underrated right now. The teams think that we are set to catch fire, the teams that are set to peak in this latter stretch of the season, the teams we want to plant our flag on their side with, and then of course the opposite, the teams that we think are overrated, fraudulent, destined to crumble and fall apart, that we just are not buying whatsoever, and therefore, Logan, we are selling. So that's the entire episode today. It's just straight stock market NBA manipulation, and it should be a whole lot of fun. So we'll start on a positive note, Logan. Who is your first buy?
My first buy is a team I've routinely been a little bit late to the party on buying stocks for, a team that you've been routinely higher than me throughout the season. I'm just warming up to the Boston Celtics as legitimate NBA Finals champion. I love everything that the Boston Celtics do. Now, granted, I want to be clear. This is them coming off of a win against the lowly Los Angeles Lakers, which I may be getting into here in a minute. But, I mean, legitimately during that game, I was kind of asking myself, would I rather have Jaylen Brown or Luka Doncic, which was a question that I never thought I'd be asking myself. And yet, I don't know. I'm seriously debating it, man. Jaylen Brown is the man.
The Celtics are one of the great collective teams in the NBA, Logan. I'm not going to lie. I still think any Jaylen Brown versus Luka conversations are nuts. I still think Jaylen, he's having an amazing season, has some legitimate limitations that can get overlooked because the team around him is so stellar. They are so underrated. They are so well coached. They are so deep. And that's what really I love so much about the Celtics. I feel like more than any team I've ever watched, maybe, they are more than the sum of their parts. They're just a wonderful, wonderful basketball team. Also, lowly Lakers is crazy. We've both been low on them. They are 34 and 22. Okay.
They're sorry. They're soft. Charmin ultra soft, man. I'll wipe my ass with the Lakers.
Wow.
I hate the Lakers more than any other basketball team in the NBA, man. I can't stand to watch them.
Sure.
I completely agree with you, and I'm going to give flowers to all the rest of the Celtics guys because they deserve credit, but I want to give Jaylen Brown first and foremost credit. And the biggest difference is I don't like Luka Doncic as a leader. I'm making this Lakers versus Celtics right now just because we saw them do battle. Mm-hmm. I think Luka's petulant. I think he's sorry. I think he's a whiner. Jaylen Brown is a dog, and I just legitimately think he has made leaps and bounds at getting better this season. I think his handle has improved. It's still not the most consistent. We see Jaylen Brown at some points have some turnover issues, but really, when we're talking about the difference in skill sets, it's that consistent downhill aggression that Jaylen Brown always brings to the table. He's so good finishing through contact. He gets downhill so much more often. He gives you great defense, and he's going to do the little things. Like, it's quite literally as simple as I think Jaylen Brown is just getting a lot better, and I think he's a great leader, and I think Luka has regressed a little bit. He's still extremely talented. I don't want to act like Luka's not a great player, but I am souring on him a little bit more. But I agree with you, man. I think it is the sum of their parts. I underestimated the acquisition at the deadline because of my anti-white NBA bias and my anti-Nikola Vucevic bias. Right. I've never been a big Vuce guy, but I really do think the different contrast of style that you're getting from all of the Celtics big men. Vucevic is such a reliable scorer if it's on the interior, if it's outside on the perimeter. He's got great scoring instincts and positioning. He brings really solid rebounding. Neemias Queta is an awesome change of pace kind of big man with the rim protection and rebounding he brings. And then it really is, man, the collective buy-in and talent and complement of the rest of this roster and their unique skill sets. If it's Derek White being one of the best guard defenders in basketball, if it's Peyton Pritchard, who I've consistently held as one of the most skilled and best shooters in the NBA, holy shit, what a game from him.
Caitlin Clark of the NBA, some have said.
Peyton Pritchard is a monster, dude.
He's so tough.
He is one of the most skilled guys I've ever watched. He's so strong. He's so just technically sound and crafty, man. Like, the guy just He's unbelievable. It doesn't make sense watching him serve buckets, and he can do it to anybody. And I like some of these other guys down the roster, man, on the wings. Like if it's Hugo Gonzalez or Jordan Walsh, like I think both of those guys bring really good versatility and feel. Hugo's got more of that feel. He's just always seems to be in the right position. He's got great instincts. And then Walsh, I really like how rangy and athletic he is. He's a really good defensive wing. And yeah, what you're saying about the sum of their parts, man, the common denominator to me is Boston, their internal development, their decision-making, and Joe Mazzulla. Like, all these guys are really talented. I think they are great at identifying talent, but I also think they are great at internally developing guys and getting them to buy into this system and know what you need to do. You're going to bust your ass on defense. You are going to bust your ass on the glass when you're going to get rebounds. You are going to get up and down the court. You are going to play unselfish basketball and find the open shooter. Basketball is a team sport. You can't do it by yourself. And raw talent is not going to overwhelm a team collective. And somebody mentioned it on the broadcast the other night for Boston and LA, and I thought they said it really well. There's a difference between a team playing together and playing for each other. And I feel like Boston is so collectively bought in. And again, as we mentioned it, the garnish, the cherry on top for them this season could be the fact that Tatum comes back. I'm at the point with Boston where they are so freaking rock solid. I think they could win the East even without Jason Tatum. And I know you felt that way earlier in the year, Carson.
It's so good to have you here.
Watched it enough with Boston this year where, like I said, the collective effort, the buy-in, the defense, the offensive process, the ability to generate high shot quality, and Jaylen Brown's development this season, I'm just there with Boston. And I enjoy watching them play basketball. I enjoy watching Boston play hard and do the little things and find the shots. Like, I just think Boston is a great, underrated team, and I have probably overlooked them a little too much because their lack of name brand talent. And them not having Tatum, I don't care. I think they're a great team, and I think they have a real chance to win the East this year.
As I said, man, they are more than the sum of their parts, and their parts to begin with were underrated, right? Like, I did not appreciate the depth of this roster coming into the year, but I do think everything is tied together so perfectly. They are full of dudes who do winning things, who max out the margins, who completely understand their roles, and like you say, in contrast to the Lakers, I mean, I want to be clear. The Lakers roster outside of their top three is just bad. The Lakers' top three are also not a good fit together because of particularly the major issues that they have on the defensive end, right? So they have been really, really bad in the minutes with Luka, Reeves, and LeBron all out there dating back to next year. So they're sort of the antithesis where they're the team you look at and it's like, oh, they have the sexy top end talent, but they aren't a good basketball team. The Celtics don't have that flashy top end talent, but they are so good in so many ways that are easy to underrate. And they do have that totality of the roster, this complete group of dudes who play winning basketball. I absolutely love them. Like, they are so legit. They are coming absolutely to not just make a deep run in the East if they don't have Jason Tatum. If they do have him, they are clearly my favorite in the conference, and I've been saying that for a while. But we're at this point, man, where we're almost 60 games deep in the year. They haven't been without their whatever you think Jason Tatum is, top 7 player in the NBA all year, and they are still third in net rating. They are still second in offensive rating. They are now up to 7th in defensive rating. And my favorite thing maybe about this Boston team is truly how they squeeze all the juice out of what they have by maxing out several specific key margins. They excel in the possession game because they keep turnovers extremely low. They are top 2 in terms of keeping turnover percentage low, and I give a lot of credit to guys like Peyton Pritchard and Derek White, who can take on significant ball handling roles and pretty much never turn the ball over. And then they are also an elite offensive rebounding team, top 5 in offensive rebound percentage. And a guy like Cade has been great there, but a lot of it is the forwards, Jordan Walsh, Hugo Gonzalez, both guys, absolute dogs there. Like, there was a possession couple weeks ago where Jordan Walsh literally ran a route against the dude trying to box him out, dude. He set him up with a Sutter step, broke him, and then got a putback dunk. Like, they are just so focused on those corner crashes, everybody attacking the offensive glass, taking good angles, maxing out effort, and like even a guard like Derek White, right, is a good offensive rebounding guard. Vooch has come in, and he's been good on the offensive glass for them as another big. So they just have so many dudes who contribute value in that way, where they are consistently just winning the possession battle, which we have seen in recent years is so key to creating margin. And then, of course, the big margin that they've had over the years is the battle beyond the three-point line, where this team is top 3 in three-pointers made. And I think the creation on this roster was underrated because I think really people underappreciated Peyton Pritchard and what he was capable of in a bigger role. He's been sensational. But I think the collective shooting on this roster is still so flat out elite that when you have this sort of spacing, you have this sort of spot-up shooting around anybody who's operating with the ball, you have a number of guys who are lethal pull-up shooters from beyond the arc like this roster does. Like, it's math at the end of the day. When you have players who excel at the most valuable shots, be that off the dribble or off the catch, that is conducive to very good team offense, and we've seen that with the Celtics. I do think that Jaylen Brown has been outstanding this year. I want to give him credit. That being said, I do still think he gets too much of the pie when it comes to the credit for this team. And I think that's because the guy's scoring 29 points per game, right? And obviously he's the face of this team at this point, and that's just what tends to happen. The best player will often get a disproportionate amount of credit when a team is doing really well, unexpectedly so especially. But the craziest number to me, man, if Derek White is on the floor, the Celtics are a plus 12 net team. When Derek White is on the floor without Jaylen Brown, they are a plus 20 net team. Like, in terms of the value to winning, I do think Derek White is pretty damn close to Jaylen Brown because of all the things that he does, again, on the margins, because of the fact that he is one of the absolute best defensive guards in basketball, because of his value as a ball handler who can keep turnovers super low, as a high IQ playmaker. Even though he's not having, by any stretch of the imagination, his best shooting season, still somebody who is obviously a big-time shooting threat from beyond the arc at all times, somebody who does offensive rebound well for his position, like just somebody who embodies what it means to be a winning basketball player. With Jaylen, obviously, his mid-range scoring, his on-ball scoring, like overall what he can do as a lethal self-creator has been essential to this team's formula. I do just think we saw him have that crazy hot stretch, right? December and earlier in the year where the shot making was just out of this world. That has come back down to earth. Since January 1st, he's at 53% true shooting. The three ball has regressed. The mid-range has come back down to more like what we're used to. He is still, in terms of a lead guy, a below average playmaker. He has had some turnover issues this year as his offensive load has increased, and the Celtics have been significantly better in terms of net rating with him off the court. Again, that is not to diminish Jaylen Brown. That is just to say this truly is a collective achievement. And when I see people say, oh, Jaylen Brown should be top 3 in MVP talks, I just think they're badly missing that picture. They're misunderstanding what makes this team so great.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit. I can't say anything negative about Jaylen Brown. He's shooting 7% better on pull-up jumpers this season. It's a career high than last year, and it's a career high in
and he's still
in
slightly
shooting.
below league average efficiency overall as a scorer.
I agree that he has his flaws. The thing that I'm becoming more pilled about, I would say, with NBA teams in general, and something that the Celtics do really well, though, is I'm becoming more bench-pilled in general. Do you have 5 guys that can come in and bust the other team's bench in those minutes? I find that becoming increasingly more and more valuable the more games I watch. Like, for example, when the Lakers turn to any of those lineups without their stars, and granted, like you mentioned, the Lakers probably aren't my best example because their stars don't complement one another anyway, so those lineups actually turn out to be okay, but Cleveland is another team that their bench 5, it's like they can come in there and they can just fucking run a team off the court in those minutes. I'm going to talk about another team here in a little bit where their bench 5 comes in and they are just really solid. I kind of just think bench units can get underrated and how important and valuable they are to turning the tide in games. And Boston's is elite. And just to wrap on like the team point that we're kind of getting at, the crux of why Boston is great. They do, man. Everybody understands their value and their role to this team. Nobody steps on anybody's toes. Like, nobody's trying to do too much. And the great teams, I've always said it on this show, and it's so important, the great teams that win championships, it takes sacrifice. And all these guys are okay with taking lesser roles and buying into the team aspect of it. But That's what I'd say more so that as I've watched this season go on, is like if you don't have a good bench, I'm probably not gonna like how you translate or you know what you're capable of on a big scope on a big stage for the rest of the season. And Boston's got one of the best in the league for my money.
It matters now more than ever before. When talent is deeper than ever and lineup versatility is more important than ever, it is more important that you actually be really good in those areas, that you have a number of different lineups that you can turn to, that you have different punches you can throw, that you have a number of players you trust to contribute. That was the theme of the playoffs last year. Who made it deep? It was the Timberwolves, who were 7 really, really strong, right, and had multiple really effective lineups they could go to. It was the Pacers and the Thunder, 2 of the deepest teams, if not the 2 deepest in the NBA. Like, we have seen this progression, and you can call it the weak link era, but the idea that you want to avoid weakness and the idea that you want to have as many solid to plus to good players on the floor at any given moment, and as many of those players on your team that you can turn to, and the Celtics embody that.
Yeah, and guys with different skill sets that provide different value at similar positions.
Totally, because you just want to have different options for different matchups. You want to have somebody you can go to if a specific player is struggling for whatever reason, and the Celtics have that. A lot of the best teams in the NBA right now have that. I do want to specifically shout out Peyton Pritchard because I do think he can get underrated. There are many nights where he's their best offensive player, and this stretch that he has been on recently is just ridiculous, dude. The last 13 games, 21.4 points per game, 5.5 assists per game on 66% true shooting. Like, I just want to appreciate what an elite offensive player this guy really is. Tyler from Hoop Venue said it the other week on our show, right? He was like, I don't think people appreciate how many highly skilled guards you could drop into certain situations, give them volume, and they could put up these really big counting stats, right? Peyton Pritchard could average 25 and 8 if you handed him the keys to the offense. And he could. But right now what he's doing is averaging a hyper-efficient, like 18 and 5 for an elite offense.
Would you rather have him or Austin Reeves?
Ooh, I think Reeves, it's close. I do think that there is a level of just like foul drawing that Reeves unlocks. I do think that Reeves, well, it's effective whether you like it or not, is also a more gifted playmaker. He just makes more advanced passing reads. But
I would
purely
Pritchard
as a scorer,
he's stronger, man. I think his game translates better to the playoffs.
When it comes to switch-beating scoring, that is where I would give Peyton Pritchard the nod. I also think that Pritchard has been a better shooter off the catch this year, and like that's such a special thing when you can make 40% of your catch and shoot threes.
He hit like a 30-foot bomb last night too, man. That guy's got legitimate range.
Yeah, he's like the heave goat outside of Jokic. But Pritchard's combination of on-ball scoring efficiency and off-ball scoring efficiency is really elite. And I do think he's the more versatile scorer than Reeves. Reeves is very dependent on screens for his self-created offense. When he goes up against an elite switching defense, he can really struggle against like those teams that are very fast, very physical. He can just have a hard time getting separation, getting by them on an island. He can be forced into really high turnover numbers, and he is a much higher turnover player than Pritchard overall, like a much higher turnover player. And so the scoring floor for him has been really low in those bad matchups. We saw it against Minnesota in the playoffs last year. We've seen it several times throughout this regular season against an OKC, Phoenix, the Spurs. This game against the Celtics, like, it can get ugly for Reeves. And so I do think that's the advantage for Pritchard, that you feel like he holds up better regardless of matchup. But then Reeves has the much higher scoring ceiling where he does average 7 more points per game this year overall and like 7% better true shooting. The volume and efficiency ceiling is definitely higher for Reeves. And a big part of that is just he is so much better as a free throw generator, like gets to the line so much more. But when it comes to playoff translatability and the ability to be effective regardless of matchup, with Pritchard, I'd come back to that switch-beating scoring. That's where I think Pritchard, with his combination of strength and shiftiness, he's just more effective. He's more impervious to physicality. And honestly, I think more devastatingly hard to stay in front of if he gets like a big switched onto him. As an isolation scorer, this guy has been one of the absolute best in the NBA for the last couple years. 97th percentile isolation efficiency this year. It's that combination of elite shiftiness that he has. And he has one of the great weapons that a small guard can have, which is that he is absolutely ridiculous from floater range. Now with him, it's not really floaters as much as it's like short jumpers, but you saw it repeatedly against the Lakers where he's able to pick out the matchup he wants, get deep into the paint, and then as a small guard, right, he's not somebody who is going to get all the way to the rim a lot, and he can struggle to finish in traffic among the trees, but what he can do is stop on a dime, spring back, spin back, and those little 10-foot jumpers for him, bro, this year in the paint outside the restricted area, 61%. It's like what Darius Garland was doing last year, right? When you can manufacture rim efficiency without having to get to the rim, that's an A++ trait for a small guard, and Peyton Pritchard has that.
Yeah, and he can do it against those tall guys because he gets that perfect little arc above the shot too.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't have the exact guy who maybe this is the answer for. Is Peyton Pritchard the best value contract in basketball?
Dude, such a great question. It's him or AJ Mitchell. Those are the two that I think about, and I'm like, those are dynamic secondary, tertiary creators for you, and Peyton Pritchard is making $7 million a year for the next 3 years, and like AJ Mitchell's deal is somehow even cheaper than that, but Pritchard is better than AJ because like the shot making with him is so reliably elite, right? When you're talking about better than 60% in the paint outside the restricted area, and you're close to a 40% three-point shooter consistently, and again, the ball handling is so insane.
Yeah, dude. I was gonna say I love watching him go to work in isolation, man. The coordination and the ability to do any dribble move from any foot placement, like his ability to change on a dime. He's incredible.
And he never turns the ball over. When you're giving your team, again, 66% true shooting, over 20 points, over 5 assists per game in this recent stretch, and you're turning the ball over 1.3 times per game, you're just a phenomenal offensive player, and he has elite on-ball value, elite off-ball value. So he is really, really good. I don't know that it's fully appreciated what a weapon he is for this team, what a weapon he can be for them in a playoff series, because as a small guard, like, he's sort of unique in how elite he is in isolation, right? A lot of those guys are more reliant on the pick and roll game, right? They need a screen to create a little separation for them, and Pritchard is not at all like that. So I love him. I love the dimension of efficient post-up scoring and floor spacing that Vooch has added for this team. I was excited about seeing him in this offense. He is white, so he does get a +5 overall boost when he puts on that Celtics jersey, right? I mean, the crowd just loves him so much, Logan. He can't help but play better. But he's also eating on the boards. I mean, over 8 rebounds a game in just 25 minutes a game so far. But he's another guy who can be that release valve, who can be an efficient play finisher, who can just give you like a quick touch score, right? Attacking a mismatch out of the post. Just another offensive weapon for them. And then, as much as we can talk about all these players and how much I like them, I trust Joe Mazzulla to outcoach anyone in the playoff field. I think his base principles, his base scheme add more value than anybody else, as we've seen. But I also think when you get into the nitty-gritty adjustments that you need in a playoff series, he's probably the best there is right now. And then I think it's so seamless to drop in Tatum to this team and say, okay, now we're even better defensively. Now we feel even better about our situation defensively in the front court and on the defensive glass. And then, oh yeah, we've also added this guy who's a 40% catch and shooter from deep and who can be so effective as an on-ball scoring creator in multiple ways with swaths of shooting around him. And now it's like we have an offensive big three of Tatum, Brown, and Pritchard in any playoff series, and we should be like a top 5 defense because we're already on the fringes of that, and now we add back probably our most valuable defensive player. Again, we don't know what version of him we're going to get, but they could win the East without him. They are a no-doubter top 3 team in the East, regardless of if Tatum comes back. And I do think him coming back just like puts this team in a conversation where like I could really see them winning the title. I've said a lot this year. I don't see anybody out of the East winning the title. I just think it's going to be somebody out of the West. Now I look at Boston and I look at the Cavs and I'm like, what are they missing from the formula when you talk about Boston with Jason Tatum? And I just don't see what's missing. That's not to say that they're on OKC's level or even on Denver's level, although Denver has been slipping as of late. But does it give them a puncher's chance? I think so. When you maximize all these margins, the possession game, when you have the potential to outshoot the opponent by plus 30 points from 3 in any given game, and you can just like totally outshoot them in a series, when you have multiple elite creators who I believe in, and you have great shooting around them. We haven't even talked about Sam Hauser, who's one of the lethal catch and shooters in the NBA. And you've got the depth, and you got the coaching. Why? Because he's another white guy?
Yeah, dude, I don't know, man. Hauser and Shireman they're definitely my least favorite Celtics.
Really? Because they're white? What don't you like about Sam Hauser?
They're just slow and unathletic, and they don't
Bro,
bring that kind of versatility.
Sam Hauser can hold his own defense.
Hauser's a UVA legend, man. Shout out. But I just feel like when he's clanging, he just doesn't bring. But either of those guys, if they're missing shots, they just don't bring that much value outside of their jumper.
Hauser doesn't clang much, does he, man? I mean, he's a 42% career three-point shooter. He's one of the best in the NBA at that. So give a little respect and love to Sam.
Shireman pisses me off a little more just because that guy looks greasy. Like he looks like he needs to take a bath.
All right, I don't know that that's really useful basketball analysis. Shout out to Baylor Shireman. I thought that he's been playing decently for them as he's been starting these last few games. The Celtics, though, I'm all in on. They were a huge buy for me as well. So we are in agreement on that one 100%. Now, Logan, it seems like you're ready to get in your hater bag with some of the shit you've already been saying 20 minutes into this episode. Who's your first sell, buddy?
Yeah, I'm pretty passionate about this one. I am selling every team in the state of California, and so should you. There is nothing to be excited about the rest of the way, I think, with any of these teams. We can start with LA. I've already made it pretty clear, and I'm just going to draw a line in the sand. Yeah, the Lakers are my least favorite team to watch in basketball. They have a collection of, I think, my least favorite players in basketball. And it's not all the Lakers' fault. I mean, it's really hard to build a competitive roster when you're giving LeBron $50 million and Maxi Kleber $10 million and then Jared Vanderbilt, double digits. Like, they were never going to figure it out. You're relying on, DeAndre Ayton and Marcus Smart and Jake LaRavia. But I think the Lakers get every call. When they don't get any call in the game, they all just collectively bitch and moan. It's like a collective issue that I have with the Lakers more than anything else. Their team mentality. I think they are just a soft, whiny basketball team, and I cannot believe J.J. Redick has any black hairs left on his head. I'm already bald, but if I had J.J. Redick's beautiful mane of hair, I think I would have either gone fully gray by now or I would have ripped it all out of my head. That has to be the most frustrating job in basketball. Luka and LeBron are the all-time whining GOAT duo, man. I can't stand to watch this team. They don't try. They don't do any of the little things like we're talking about. Again, I don't think it's all a mentality thing. I think there are glaring personnel limitations that the Lakers have that exacerbate some of these problems, but it's everything about LA. It's the mentality, how they play basketball, the lack of talent. The Lakers aren't going to do anything meaningful until LeBron James leaves the building. I have said it. He may not be the most overpaid player in basketball, but he is definitely overpaid. You can make any argument that LeBron, on whatever contract you could pay him, would make you money back in merchandise and ticket sales. But from a pure basketball value standpoint, I think he's one of the most overpaid guys in the league. You just shouldn't be paying that guy $50 million. So I really don't care that the Lakers are number one in the Pacific. We've said it a million times, so I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but they have such glaring roster issues. There is such a lack of effort in defense on this team. Their days are so obviously numbered.
It was pretty funny when you talk about lack of effort. I think that their defensive problems are overwhelmingly a personnel thing. They have terrible personnel on that side of the ball, and so it's not like they have some ability to say, hey, let's engage and we'll be a solid defense. No, they are just badly lacking in point of attack defenders and wing defenders and any sort of backline defense, rim protection, horrible defensive roster. But there was a hilarious possession in that Celtics game when it was early fourth quarter. It was an 11-point game, and so this is sort of a moment where the Lakers need to spring into things. No, they were in a 2-3 zone for that possession, and they ended up putting 2 on the ball on the wing. And that created a 3-on-2 essentially below the break, and LeBron basically was guarding 2 in the paint, and Sam Hauser comes and sets a little down screen, and Vooch just curls over it, and LeBron doesn't make a single fraction of an effort to fight through, get over anything. Vooch literally shoots a warm-up little 5-foot push shot wide open. I was that's one of the worst possessions of defense I've seen this year, but very Lakers.
Yeah, and I agree with you, man. I think it's mostly personnel, but I am a big believer in your leaders set the table for your basketball team, and I'm just a big believer in the other guys are going to assume the mentality and the aggression level of the guy leading the charge. And when LeBron and Luka are so just absent so routinely from like really busting their ass, I just think it permeates in a feeling of complacency for the rest of the roster. And so it's incredibly frustrating to watch. But like I said, it's not just the Lakers. We're selling the stock on every team in California. I'm out on the Golden State Warriors, and shout out to them for beating Denver the other night.
Great game. I was there.
They are so utterly devoid of offensive talent around Steph Curry, and I don't want to beat a dead horse with this one because I think that the crux of their issues are the exact same ones that have been problems for this team. They made the move to get Porzingis at the deadline. Who knows if he's going to be available or not come playoffs. We've seen him on the court for them. I've been blown away by his minutes, but he does bring elements that you're excited about, right? The rim protection, the size, the rebounding, the mismatch attacking, some of the floor spacing if he can stay available. But it's just not enough, man. There are no creators here. Nobody looks like, especially in these games without Steph Curry, like, I just can't stand to watch the Warriors either because it's like nobody wants the ball in their hands. Everybody's scared. Everybody's pensive. Everybody's timid. Like, defensively, I actually don't mind the Warriors. I think that they are sound. I think they try hard. I think Draymond brings consistency and a leadership role on that end. I think they've got guys that know what they're doing on that side of the ball. But when they get the ball into the half court, they are just so deeply uninspiring in terms of especially when the situation is, I need you to serve a bucket. I need you to break down a guy. I need you to drive the lane and create dribble penetration. The Warriors can manufacture a bucket if it's an off-ball screen or if it's a guy finding an open space and relocating. It's a fundamental skill issue with these guys where, you know, I'm not trusting Brandon Podziemski to go break somebody down. I'm not trusting DeAnthony Melton to go create a bucket. Like, I think
good.
Like, don't get me wrong, man. I think the Warriors are a little bit better on that end, but it's just not enough. The firepower clearly is not there. It has not been there, and this is not a new revelation that I'm bringing to the table about the Golden State Warriors. I'm just saying that even though they've gotten better, even though I think this is a slightly more competitive roster than they've had in years previous, you know, it's, you know, really similar to the one with Jimmy last year, but there's just still not enough there, even with a healthy Steph Curry, in my opinion, for the Warriors to do anything meaningful in the playoffs. I think LA and Golden State both are destined to first-round playoff exits pretty obviously. Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, the other teams, Kings have been cooked. They can't – they tank without even trying.
It's impressive.
It actually is. It's the most impressive non-tank job in a long time. They just actually regularly lose.
Yeah.
And then, I might buy Clippers. I might buy Clippers stock for like 4 years from now, but they're cooked for this year too. I'm out on the entire state of California. I have emptied my stocks. They are in the market now.
I mean, just a wonderful, wonderful state. In terms of the basketball teams this year, yeah, not so good. Look, I don't want to belabor any points with the Lakers. They would be here for me if I had any stock to sell, but I don't. I think I've been as critical and as low on the Lakers as anybody this entire year. Have not changed that position whatsoever. The defense is untenably bad. Still 24th in defensive rating. They simply do not have winning athletes, guys who do things on the margins, guys who can cover up for the deficiencies of their star players. They just don't exist on this roster. I agree with you. This is also a team that just does not pride themselves on the winning things whatsoever. They really don't seem to care very much. And then you have the fact that as good as their top-end offensive talent is, it has not led to like elite team offense, right? They're a good offense, but in the minutes when Luka, LeBron, and Reeves are all out there together this year, they are a -10 net team. They get waxed in those minutes because they're so bad defensively. And again, they can't squeeze all the juice out of those individual offensive talents because all those guys have some issues playing off of each other when it comes to just being natural ball dominant players and having some issues shooting off the catch. When you look at Luka and LeBron and issues playing off the catch, and Reeves really struggling against super athletic teams, this entire team struggling against athletic teams on both sides of the ball in a number of ways, LeBron not having the same gear that he can turn to, and then you have the fact that they are a team that is not good in terms of the turnover margin, that is not good in terms of the offensive rebounding margin, right? That is a team that really struggles in terms of transition, and there's just all these different ways in which they bleed value, where even though they may have three very sexy offensive players, they are ultimately a thoroughly mediocre basketball team because everything around that is so bad. They're 18th in net rating. I mean, we went through the whole history in recent years. I think out of the last 19 teams to finish with a negative point differential in the regular season, one of them won even a single playoff series. So you know where they're headed. Like, they're just not a good basketball team. Now, when it comes to the Warriors, obviously Jimmy being injured, like, cooked this team, right? Because they were so reliant on what he could bring as a second offensive creator and as somebody who ties so many things together for them on both sides of the ball. Breaking news, when you pay somebody $60 million and then you lose them for the season, you're pretty much fucked. And so that is the reality for the Dubs. I have no idea if KP will ever be healthy. He comes in, he plays a dozen minutes against the Celtics, and then day of the Nuggets game, he says, I'm sick, I can't play. The guy's chronically ill. Like, unfortunately, we've seen it for the last 15 months now where he's really struggled to stay in the lineup, and I don't know why that would get better. I hope it would. I think the basketball fit is really good. I think the talent is good, but that's a pretty massive concern.
Best case scenario, though, Jimmy gets back healthy for next year, and you can get KP on like a cheap contract if he wants to come back, and you could get – don't get me wrong, the guy's probably not going to play more than half the season. Who knows if he's going to be available for the playoffs. That's still a bargain to me if you could get him for 20 minutes a night on, 41 games during the regular season. Like, that would still be worth it to me if I'm the Dubs.
I totally agree, dude. I think I'm higher on the Dubs than you are because I do think there's a world where if KP can stay healthy, he's a great fit
for like next
team.
Season. I'm just purely looking at it for this year.
Yeah, well, next year, obviously, with Jimmy back, that introduces a different ceiling for this team where maybe they could, like, actually be very good. Even with KP and Steph healthy this year, I think what Steph does for this offense is so monumental. Like, when he's on the court, you can talk about all these limitations around him. They still have a 120 offensive rating in Steph minutes this year. And he is still one of the 3 or 4 greatest offensive forces in the game because of the overwhelming amounts of offensive attention that he is going to draw every single moment that he is on the floor, because of the extent to which, when guys do know how to play within this motion system, when they do know how to play off of Steph Curry, he creates so many easy opportunities for his teammates and then is still a very effective on-ball scorer. And just like overall this year, right? The guy's averaging 27 a game on 64% true shooting. When he's on the floor, he is fantastic, and he has made this offense really good. And I do feel pretty good about how some of the, I guess, key guys on this roster, it's sad to say, like, they are just lacking talent, but I do think the fit of this roster and the synergy of it actually does make sense. Like, getting rid of a Jonathan Kuminga, good riddance. They just have, also because of a couple guys they added in the offseason, a fair number of like high field players who do understand the system, who do compete defensively. DeAnthony Melton has been really good for them. He's been an upgrade over Pods in terms of like a secondary ball handler who more consistently actually can create something. Now, he is the only player who can really do anything with the ball in their hands right now, but when Steph is on the floor, you only need like one other decent ball handler creator to be a really good offense. And so Melton is better than what they have had there over the last couple years at the guard spot. And then Guy Santos, dude, like, he's been playing really well for them. His last 10 games, I think he's averaging like 16, 5, and 4 on 70% true shooting. Just somebody who plays his ass off, is going to attack the offensive glass, is going to run the floor hard, is going to compete defensively. Excellent feel as a cutter, and he's actually been knocking down outside shots, and he's got solid feel as a connective passer. Al Horford, that vision has come together where early in the year, like, he couldn't really play much and he was struggling to shoot the ball, you've really seen his value in recent weeks where he does bring, again, more connective passing, legitimate floor spacing. He's been shooting the ball really well. He's been very good in his minutes. Moses Moody has really put the shot together this year, and you feel the value of his athleticism out there. So there's a vision here. There's a vision of just like a lot of shooting around Steph, which they kind of have. I mean, there's not like a lot of reliable high-level knockdown shooters around him, but there are a lot of perimeter players who, if you get them like open catch and shoot looks, I think they shoot it well enough. I think they've improved there from last year by adding a guy like Horford, with Moody shooting better, with Guy Santos shooting better, with a guy like Melton in the fold now. And then, again, there's a little bit of ball handling, but there's a lot of feel. There's a good bit of passing around him. And then Steph Curry is still like this A++ offensive weapon. And then KP comes in and it's like, all right, now we have another guy who can score 20 a game and who can really be effective in certain matchups, who can punish mismatches, who can space the floor, who brings that dimension of elite rim protection. And I can see them being quite good on both sides of the ball. Am I saying that I think it's reasonable to expect them to win a playoff series? No, because there's just a lack of high-end talent on this roster without Jimmy Butler. However, as somebody who has been watching a lot of Warriors basketball, just as a Warriors fan, like, obviously things always look kind of ugly when Steph is off the court, especially offensively, but they've been better than I would have expected, and some of these players are performing in a way that is encouraging to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good point. Like, I don't mean to take digs at these guys in their roles when Steph Curry's out there. I just mean, holy shit, dude, Golden State has not had a guy outside of Steph Curry that can serve a dude a bucket since Jordan Poole got socked in the jaw. Like, I don't get why.
Well, yeah, Jimmy last year, but
I just mean, like, that. Is it really that hard to get a player like that in that archetype? We've established on this show every episode how, though, that archetype is almost a dime a dozen in the modern NBA today, and you'd figure Golden State could find one guy who I would feel better about the Warriors, even if he doesn't bring that defensive value. Just a guy where when Steph isn't out there and healthy, or for, I don't know, 12 to 14 minutes a game, could bring legitimate offensive firepower. Yeah. I still feel like that would be a really easy position of need to address, and Golden State just never does it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, listen, I would have loved, obviously, them to do the Kuminga for Malik Monk trade, especially because they would have gotten a first. I think that would have addressed the lack of ball handling in the non-Steph minutes nicely. But again, I mean, I understand the bar here is not high. Melton plus Pods is better ball handling, a better, like, point guard, combo guard rotation than they've had in a while. I understand you're laughing, and I understand why. But again, Steph does so much heavy lifting for the offense. They're a top 10 defense. There's a lot of speed and feist on this defense. Like, they're top 3 in steals generated. They can convert that into points off turnovers. They do have shooting around Steph. Like, this is the team that is leading the league in threes made. I don't think it's going to be a situation like last year where it's, you know, we can basically zone up, have somebody locked in on Steph at all times, and dare anybody else to make a perimeter shot. I think they've improved the shooting enough on this team to where that would not be a sustainable defensive formula, because they actually have the shooting to punish that. I mean, I didn't even mention Will Richard, who I really like. He has a strap, and he's a really high field player, and he defends his ass off. Like, he generates a ton of steals in the minutes that he's out there. So there's just good stuff. Obviously, the name recognition value here is like 0.0. The high-end talent around Steph is non-existent, but they just have guys who are playing their roles right now. They have guys who, in terms of the fit around Steph, I do feel pretty decent about. So my expectations are realistic here, but like, I do think they're going to be in the playoffs, and I do think when Steph is on the court, if you put a top 10 defense around him and dudes with feel around him, like, you can be top 10 on both sides of the ball, because that's what he does for your offense. Now, when it comes to the rest of the California teams, the only thing I'll say about this is, with the Clippers, Kawhi is still playing out of his mind, and he is still going to keep them afloat. And even in these recent losses, like to Orlando last night, to the Lakers a couple nights before that, right? Close games, lost to just okay teams. Like, what Kawhi is able to take on as a scorer right now is ridiculous. He is still in assassin mode. Since the Harden trade, he's averaging 31, 8, and 4 on better than 60% true shooting. Like, he's been playing at a fringe top 5 level for a long while now. So I do think he's going to keep them in games. I have no real expectation of Garland coming back and playing at this point. I just don't know. This toe situation, it's dragging and dragging. And I don't really know what the Clippers' goals are. Like Kawhi basically said, we're cooked because he's Kawhi, and he'll just come out and say that in a monotone, and it's like, all right, I guess. But they're still trying to win games. He's still trying to win games. Also, shout out to Yannick Conan-Niederhauser, dude. I like that guy. He is fucking switchable.
He's a really good athlete, yeah.
He's a good athlete. He can move. He's got flexible hips, and then is able to make some like really nice recovery blocks, and he's got solid touch. What are you talking about? You're laughing because I said flexible hips? I mean, very fluid hips. He changes direction really well. And so he's good. He's good. I like what I've seen out of him. But obviously, big picture, yeah, not so great when you trade Harden and Zoo midseason. But I still think they're going to be competitive.
At least the Kings have Nick Clifford.
At least the Kings have Nick Clifford, although Nick hasn't had quite as good a season as I would have hoped. That's just because I love
Nick's
Nick.
been playing better. They've been giving him a little more burn, and I like that the kid from Stanford, Raynaud. He's
Raynaud, shout out. Yeah, no, I like Nick. I mean, I'm a believer of his. I just had really high expectations, and he is 24, so at some point we got.
No, I mean, there's just like really nothing to be excited about. So you gotta take your wins where they are with Sacramento.
No question about that, man. No doubt about that, especially because they shipped away a couple guards who have been impactful for a team that maybe I will shout out in the buy category. However, I do have to mention a sell here. I'll go with my quickest one and my cheapest one. Bulls play-in stock, Logan. For once, the Chicago Bulls are not going to make the play-in. It's devastating to their fan base.
Do you not think so? I think there's still a chance.
Bro, first of all, you owe an apology to the fucking Charlotte Hornets, because it was a month ago when I said, hey, the Hornets are coming. That offense is sick. They clear those pathetic Bulls in Chicago.
They were missing Jalen Smith. They were missing Josh Giddey. They were missing Trey Jones, man. Those guys make a difference.
No, those guys don't really make a difference, man.
Trey Jones is a solid hooper, bruh.
Dude, how dare you disrespect the big three of Concanupple, LaMelo Ball, and Brandon Miller?
That
when they share the
sexual
floor,
basketball.
They have a 133 offensive
LaMelo
rating
Ball
when those
can't
three
drive.
share the floor. Oh, my God. Bro, LaMelo's playing the best basketball of his career, the highest field basketball of his career. The shooting percentages may not be there. I don't care. The offense is insane in large part because of his playmaking, because of the synergy that he and Con have, and the three-point shooting from that big three is ridiculous overall. They're 24-16 when those three all play, Logan. They have a plus 12 net rating when those guys are all on the floor. Well, I'm just going back and I'm saying there was a time when I said, hey, man, the Hornets, are good. And you said, no, they still suck. They suck like the Bulls. And I said, no, they don't. They are way better than the Bulls. And I'm coming back to that, baby. I did have the Hornets as a shout out for a buy, so I'll just give them a little love. They are 16-9 since January 1st. They're the number one offense in the NBA. I mentioned those ridiculous stats with their offensive big three on the floor, and we haven't even seen Kobe White yet for them, who's another offensive weapon. They only have 3 losses in the last month, and they were to Cleveland by 5, to Houston by 4, to Detroit by 6, right? 3 very good basketball teams, 3 very close losses. So that offense, it's just such a wagon. It's so hard to guard that much shooting and movement and couple high field passers, and they're another team that is really good on the offensive board. So big shout out to them. I think they are one of the best offenses in the NBA flat out. And then you got a team like the Chicago Bulls who just suck, bro. They've lost 9 straight. They're going to miss it by a lot. And I'll tell you what, this is the first year that they have tucked their tail between their legs and they've said, we don't even think we can make the play-in. We're just going to tank. We're going to trade Vooch. We're going to trade basically everybody on the roster that, could possibly draw any value on the market. Ayo Dosunmu, Kobe White, all these guys. Get them out of here. We're just going to accept that we fucking suck. Which is hilarious because, lest we forget, there was a time that this team was 4-0. And I called it
I know you've
the
been dunking your nuts on the Bulls for months.
Well, I've been dunking my nuts on the Bulls for years, dude, because they fucking sucked for years. And they always want to be this fake play-in team that gets fucking embarrassed there. And it's just pretty funny because, there was optimism. And I get it. Bulls fans are like fucking grasping at straws to be optimistic about it. I don't hold it against you guys at all. But the fact that now they've embraced the tank 2/3 of the way into the same season that people were hopeful. Dark stuff. Josh Giddey since Christmas, Logan. Obviously, he's been hurt for a fair bit of this time. He's played 10 games in that period. He's averaging 12.8 points per game on 50.9% true shooting, under 38% from the field, 26% from 3, getting waxed in his minutes. The shooting, fake as can be. The driving, Has been bad again. I mean, I do think that he improved this year, but I just think the improvement was much more marginal than a lot of people originally wanted to act like, oh my God, Josh Giddey, now he's a franchise building block. It's like, no, he is still flawed in pretty much all the same ways. He just got a little bit better, a little bit more aggressive and physical as a downhill driver. And that's pretty much what I got to say about the Bulls. They suck for real. Shout out Matas Buzelis, though. He is a W Mans, and I do believe in him.
Yeah, I like Buzelis a lot. I mean, the one guy I really hate watching on the Bulls is Patrick Williams. That guy's been booty, I think, for his entire life. He sucks.
Dude, he sucks.
Patrick Williams is a really tough watch. I don't think that guy has a brain. I'm never quite sure about what he's doing on the court.
Underratedly brutal to be owing that guy $18 million a year through 2029. The Bulls are as cooked as ever. So yeah, I guess again this is another spot where like I had zero Bulls stock. I just think it's kind of funny. Their arc this season. It's very, very, very quintessential 2020s Bulls.
I root for the Bulls in the way that I root for the Kings. They're just like so shitty. It's like, come on, buddy. I hope you can figure it out. They never will.
The lovable
it's a good shout.
I
got a team that waxed the Bulls the other night. That they didn't wax them. They eked out a dub against them. But I'm excited about the Toronto Raptors. We haven't talked a lot about Toronto this year, but I think they've got a real chance at winning a playoff series, and that's how I want to frame this. I'm not taking the Raptors to come out of the East or go to the Eastern Conference Finals, but I think they could win a first-round playoff series, and a lot of that has to do with two things, really. One, I really buy into Brandon Ingram as a half-court offensive guy. Now, this is, ironically, where the Raptors' fatal flaw will likely be in the half-court. I think that when you look at the guys around Brandon Ingram, that's where you can run into some problems if he's facing a lot of double teams and stuff like that. There's just not a ton of offensive skill around Brandon Ingram, and sometimes that can rear its ugly head. If it's R.J. Barrett who's having a really rough stretch, if Scotty Barnes isn't hitting his shot, I could see them running into issues in that way, but I really like Brandon Ingram as the lead half-court offensive guy. He is such a good playmaker. He's such a good over-the-top shot maker. I just really like Brandon Ingram, man. He's grown on me a lot in Toronto, and maybe it's just seeing him in a different winning situation that has moved me, and it shouldn't, but he looks really good. Quickly can still give you some juice, man. I've always loved Quickly.
You have.
He had a damn good game the other night, but really it's the defense behind them and their principles. I love the Raptors defense. I think they've got a lot of rangy guys and a lot of underrated players that give them great minutes. Mamu off the bench.
Come on,
that
now.
guy's been rock solid this year, bro. I've been hesitant because of my anti-white NBA bias, but Sandro's nice,
Bro
man.
just came on the pod and said, I'm racist like a million times. Logan Camden is on a heater, bro.
You say it on TikTok all the time, man. You know, I've gotten some.
I do, and you get mad. You get mad when I say that you're just like Sean Penn's character from
I was just about to say, I saw that clip of that movie for the first time because my sister had it on, and I said, hey, Lily, I got comped to that guy, and then she goes,
yeah, no, he's a horrible human being.
She goes, ooh, I don't know about that one.
Sure.
I said, yeah, Carson said that's my spitting image.
Yeah, you want to be part of the Christmas Adventurers Club. Although clearly you don't. With this sort of anti-white rhetoric, they wouldn't allow you within 100 miles of the Christmas Adventurers Club.
But despite being blinded by my anti-white bias, I am moved by Mamu off the bench, man. The guy's he's been really good defensively for them. He's again one of these big, rangy defenders that Toronto has. I like Colin Murray-Boyles. Jacoby Walter brings some versatility off the bench. I like him. And even their guard rotation, like these guys aren't elite guard defenders per se, you know, like the best of the best, but Quickly is a smaller guard with a plus wingspan that can be impactful on that end. Really, it's Shed off the bench that is a dog. That guy's a really intense point of attack defender. But I just wanted to show some love to the Raptors. I think they've been flying under the radar a little bit, and rightfully so. Like, I don't think this team is a top-tier contender out of the East. I don't think they're going to come out and win the title or anything like that, but I think they're going to give a team to business in the first round and have a chance to win a first-round playoff series. Like, I I think the Raptors are a little bit underrated right now, and I really like their continuity, their depth, their principles, and especially their defense. Again, I see the fatal flaw with this team. I know if they lose, I know what their shortcoming is going to be, and it's them falling short in the half court. But I like a lot of what they've got going for them this season.
The defense is awesome. Just the other episode, I was singing the praises of Scotty Barnes, who's having a phenomenal defensive season, and they've got a lot of length and range on that side of the ball, and I do like their depth. Like, I like all that you're shouting out. I think that Darko Rajakovic is a good coach. Like, the Raptors have absolutely been one of the surprise success stories of the season, and they're legit. Like, they've kept it up. We're sitting here, and we're 2/3 of the way into the year, and they're still 34-23 in the 5th seed. I do worry a lot about the half-court offense, though. I think that there is some significant clunkiness there. I worry a lot about just the lack of outside shooting here. This is a 3rd percentile spot-up team, like bottom of the barrel there, very
it feels
low volume.
Like it.
Yeah, dude.
Well, it's crazy because Toronto can build this incredible margin in transition and on defense and on the glass, and then ironically, most games they end up giving it back from, the offense going through a lull.
Right. They're 21st in offensive rating since December 1st. So, like, for 2/3 of the season up to this point, they have been a bottom third offense. Scotty Barnes continues to really struggle to knock down jumpers. RJ Barrett has come back and had a difficult jump shooting season. And then I look at, like, the two guys who I do think are kind of entrusted with, like, those lead creation responsibilities in the half court, and BI and IQ, and both of them I worry about against, like, super athletic switching defenses. I think that BI can be forced into a really tough shot diet against those looks. I think that IQ is somebody who out of pick and roll can be effective, but again can struggle against elite athletes when trying to beat them in, like, isolation situations. He's just not a good isolation scorer. So there's just a lot that worries me here between, like, the creators being entrusted with the most responsibility, who I don't really trust and worry about in certain matchups, shooting around them that I don't buy, and overall, they're just like a 36th percentile half-court offense. I think, like, that's a pretty big red flag for me. So that's where I don't think I'm buying Raptor stock. I think I'm just staying put. I think they're a good team. I respect them, but I do think there are certain matchups in the East in which, like, they get waxed by teams that just have way more offensive firepower. But I do think the defense is awesome. I think it's a really good season for them, and they built this kind of weird roster.
I do think,
look, it's worked better than expected, I would say.
And that's why I want to shout them out, just because they have been a surprise for me this season. I liked them at the beginning of the year, and a lot of what I bought in has rang true. RJ makes a real difference to me, though, man. Coming back from the injury, he hasn't been good, but
yeah,
he is a really damn good driver when he's on, and I'm hoping in the last few months of this year he can get back to where he was, and I think that would make a meaningful difference to me in, again, the actual chances of them winning a playoff series. I don't know if they would be favored, but I think there's a chance. And like I said, man, we haven't talked a lot about the Raptors this year, and they're just better than I expected. So shout them out. We'll see. I've been pleasantly surprised with Toronto.
Yeah, it's just hard when I worry this much about shooting with a team, and I do really worry about the shooting with RJ. They did just get Pirtle back, though. I do like Pirtle. Like, they're, again, a very solid, good basketball team, just with a pretty major flaw, a couple of major offensive flaws that do worry me. Logan, I don't know if this is cheeky. I think I'm buying Thunder stock at this point in the year. Now, you may think that I own it all, but I don't think I do. I think that I can buy up even a little bit more of the market share, and here's the reason that I say that. We have barely seen this team at full strength at all this season. You know how many games they've played with Shai, Chet, Ihart, and J-Dub all healthy?
I'll guess
I was going to
7.
spoil it. Very close. 5. 5 games this entire year. J-Dub has missed 32 games, of course. Ihart has missed 26 games. On top of that, A.J. Mitchell has missed 15 games. Caruso has missed 20 games. Like, so many of their best players have been out for extended stretches. Shai, of course, now being out for an extended stretch in his own right. And I just think that hasn't gotten discussed enough, because they have been so excellent in spite of that. Because when you go 23-4 when Shai plays without J-Dub, like, you can almost forget that an All-NBA player has been out of the lineup. And because when you're able to rattle off wins without Ihart, although they did struggle a bit more without Ihart, like, it's just so easy because Shai is such a monumental superstar, and because the depth of this roster is really good, you can forget, oh yeah, we have barely seen what this team is actually going to look like. And that's why I do still think, like, this is definitely a better team than last year, right? Last year won 68 games. Last year finished with the second best net rating in NBA history, okay? They're not going to achieve either of those feats this year unless they win their last 24 games in a row. And the net rating mark is honestly still within reach, but they just had much better health luck last year, even though still, I mean, Chet missed more than half the year, and J-Dub still missed whatever he did, 13 games. Like, I thought they were going to have better health luck this year. It turns out they are just not a fortunate team in that regard, but still, like, having to find a way to win without Shai, that's not something they had to do at all last year. Being without J-Dub and iHeart, like, guys, for such hardy stretches of this season, AJ emerging as such an important player, and then he gets hurt too. Like, there's so much talent here. We've barely got to see it all out together on the floor at the same time. But the two guys who I look at, when they've shared the court, OKC has basically been unstoppable. Shai and AJ Mitchell, when they both play, OKC is 35-6. In minutes those two play together, OKC has a plus 21 net rating and a 125 offensive rating. AJ emerging as that very legitimate third ball handler, third creator, has been so important for this team. Shai has even taken a level up with his scoring efficiency. I think his playmaking has been even a little bit better. They've retained all the important pieces on this team. Chet is having a better season than last year. We'll see if it translates to improved playoff production, but regardless, I still think we have every reason to think this team is better than last year's team that won the title. I understand there's been a lot of cooling of the momentum since they started 24-1, and ever since then they haven't really been playing elite basketball. But again, you have to factor in how many injuries they've had. J-Dub, again, just has to get back to a level closer to where he was at last year, but they were beating the brakes off of everybody without J-Dub. So this is a moment when I think maybe some people are looking at them and going, okay, are they a little bit vulnerable because they haven't been dominant in the last 30-plus games? I'm taking the opposite angle, and I'm saying no. I think they are more dominant than the picture that we are having painted for us right now because, I mean, in spite of all these injuries, right, they're still 44-14 with the fourth best net rating in NBA history, trailing only the 96 Bulls, the 25 Thunder, and the 97 Bulls. They are still a top 4 offense in the NBA, and still the best relative defense in modern NBA history since the 60s Celtics. I just think we're kind of taking for granted what they've done considering all these injuries. And then you look around and it's like Denver, another team that, by the way, has had to overcome a ton of injuries this year, but they have been less impressive recently, and they are still sitting at 22nd in defensive rating, and I think they are extremely dependent on Aaron Gordon being healthy, Peyton Watson being healthy. Like, you saw how the defense looked without those guys in the Warriors game yesterday, for example, and it was pretty ugly. So I do still think that Denver is much better than their record, and Denver is a truly elite team and still the biggest threat to OKC. However, I do feel like OKC is starting to grow that gap between them and the field again, right? They had that really brutal outside shooting stretch in sort of the midway stretch of the season, and now they've been shooting the ball better again. I'm not saying things have fundamentally changed here. I'm just saying the formula of all-time great offensive engine, top 5 offense, dominate the turnover transition margin, historic defense, great depth, all that stuff, they've still got it, and all that stuff is what makes them the title favorite, and we just haven't gotten to fully appreciate it because so many pieces have been out of the lineup for so much of this year.
Yeah, and I think because of that, you can make a very strong argument that OKC is almost underrated at this point, and their greatness can just get taken for granted. The thing about OKC that just always blows my mind is the defensive principles and how fundamentally sound they are on that end. Especially this, Cleveland game that we saw, and shout out for Cleveland for clawing back in that game after that huge deficit early on. But the immense ball pressure that everybody provides, fucking Chet is so amazing.
Yeah,
Chet just does stuff that leaves me slack-jawed every single game. That
poor
chase
Naquan
down,
Tomlin,
and
man.
He's done. The Naquan Tomlin one was nasty, where I just felt bad for him, man. It was like somebody playing with their little brother where he swats him and then is like, oh, no, come on, buddy. Come on. Come back to the rim.
One more.
Immediately stuffs him. The play that left my mind boggled was that chase down snatch he had on Evan Mobley on that late lob, where they threw that late entry pass, and Chet flies out of nowhere and snatches that ball back. Like, I know that we always say that it's the most underrated archetype in basketball, and I do think it is, but Chet is just freakish on that end. He is one of the best defenders in basketball, and I think he can kind of get taken for granted for what he does for them. But they're so talented. Nobody's been healthy, and yet whoever they put in the lineup, if it's Kaysen needing to step up, they've gotten some decent minutes from Topic off the bench. He's been a little bit inconsistent. But again, when they get fully healthy, A.J. Mitchell's awesome and is going to crank it up. Like, J-Dub has – it doesn't make sense that a team this injured this season has been as consistently great as OKC is, and you just got to give credit mostly to their defense, their principles, and how they play as a team, man. And McCain has been awesome as an injection for this team. I love what he brings to the table for them.
Yeah, I think so often we talk about Shai and how much he carries this offense, and he absolutely does, right? I mean, he's got like a plus 11 offensive on-off swing, right? And they've been an elite offense when he's on the court and a bad offense when he's off the court this year. But the Cavs win, it's just a testament to, like, okay, we don't have Shai, we don't have J-Dub, we don't have A.J. Mitchell. So we don't have our three best creators. We also don't have Alex Caruso. And they are still able to, on the back of defense, turning defense into offense, right? Forcing a bunch of turnovers that they were able to capitalize on, what they could do with their full court speed and transition. And then, I mean, they shot the ball really well, which not necessarily sustainable. We know this team can go through lulls there, but that was a really impressive team win that they had over Cleveland. And just an interesting continuation of this theme where, like, we have this weird MVP race this year where, like, SGA, Jokic, Wemby, Luka for the top 5 candidates, and I really think only SGA and Jokic, if healthy, are the two guys who make a case. But, like,
Really?
you don't know. Yeah. Those are the only. Oh, you're saying that as a joke? Then I'm saying it's only those two? Or, oh, you're going to make a Wemby case?
I'm going to make a case for somebody.
Oh, you're going to make a case for somebody. Well, what I'm saying is all of these guys, right, are very much on the fringes of eligibility, and Cade Cunningham is kind of the only one who feels safe. But then you look at all of their teams and games without them, and it's like the Thunder have gone 6-3 without SGA. The Nuggets have gone 10-6 without Jokic. The Pistons have gone 5-1 without Cade. The Spurs have gone 10-4 without Wemby. The Lakers 6-6 without Luka. Like, all of these teams have had success without their best players, which I think is just a testament to the fact that more so than ever before, depth is really the key in terms of driving team success. Like, obviously, these players are monumentally important, but we have seen, even though the OKC offense does fall apart without Shai, they can still win games because the defense is that great. And at the end of the day, Shai's going to be out there when it matters most, and he is playing at as high a level as anybody on the planet this year, and I do think they have the best roster. And so, yeah, I am doubling down, and I am buying even more Thunder stock at this time of year. I really think that number with Shai and AJ, man, 35-6 in those games, it's like when their two best offensive players this year have been on the court, they've been basically unbeatable. The flaws have really pretty much all appeared, like when AJ has been out, when one of those guys has been out. So I'm excited to see them fully healthy when it matters most. Logan, let's flip to the other side of the conversation. Who are you selling?
Admittedly, I don't have a lot of stock left on this team. I'm sure no one really does. And if you do, I implore you, dump it.
Oh.
I have another division leader here, and it's the Orlando Magic. I don't really have to get too complicated, I feel like, with this take. This is a Paolo Banchero argument, and I'm just more so out. Paolo had a decent game against Phoenix not that long ago, but it's literally the shot selection and the shot diet and the ability to put the ball in the basket. I mean, it's really as simple as that. And again, the consistent track record. I don't want to beat a dead horse. We have not been high on the Orlando Magic. I just think that a lot of people talk themselves, and I didn't forget it, man. It's like, you know what? Really, this is a complete tangent. One of the takes that really grinded my gears that got swept under the rug about the NFL from a couple years back is when Aaron Rodgers had just signed with the New York Jets, and every Jets fan across the planet was like, we're going to win the AFC, and then they just like acted like we should forget about that and act like wipe that under the table. It reminds me of the Magic from this year when they got Desmond Bane, and I remember a lot of people at the beginning of the year saying that the Magic were a top 3 team in the East and that they were going to run through it and win the East. I don't think the Magic are particularly close. Like, if you ask me between them and Toronto, I think I might lean Toronto. Like, I am just out on Orlando fundamentally. I think they have similar issues, right, in terms of the half-court offense and the shooting ability, but I think Orlando's worse. Like, I trust Paolo less. You know, I know FRAUDS has been injured, and maybe that changes the dynamic a little bit, but not too much for me. Desmond Bane is really the only saving grace for Orlando. Like, I think he was a great acquisition for them. He is a weapon in the half-court. He's an elite shooter of the basketball, off movement, with the ball in his hands, off the catch. I love him and what he brings to this team, but everything else just leaves a lot to be desired with the Orlando Magic, where I think they're even less skilled than Toronto. I think I like their defense less than a team like the Raptors, and really it comes back to their lead guy, where when I look at Toronto, I do like a guy like Brandon Ingram in his what he can provide for me for an offense. And Paolo, I'm just out on. I think I'm ready to dump all of my stock if I had any left on the guy. And I just didn't forget. I don't think Orlando has sniffed being a top-tier team in the Eastern Conference. I don't think they've been close, and I don't think they are. I think it is going to take drastic roster deconstruction. I think they're going to have to flip a lot of these guys and make some really, really major changes. They're just so far away, and they're just so deeply unskilled, man. That's what it comes back to with Orlando, and I'm just completely out on them. There's another few teams in the Eastern Conference that I have not been a big fan of that I would also be selling stock on, but for me, Orlando's at the top of that list.
Yeah, similarly, I just don't really have Orlando stock to sell. I was relatively optimistic coming into the year that this would be a team that would win close to 50 games, right? And I thought that Bane was a really good addition and a really good fit for them. The reality is I'm just so out on Paolo at this point, and we have not only not seen any progression, we have very arguably seen regression in terms of his overall effectiveness, because he is having such a horrific, atrocious season as a jump shooter, and the decision-making is still bad, and the processing is still bad, and the passing value is not there. I saw an interesting additional point, though, from our friend Tyler, who, man, you shouted again to him. Maybe you guys will see him on the podcast again soon. Who knows? But he basically said people tend to key in on the shot selection, the decision-making, what have you. And what doesn't get talked about enough with Paolo in terms of his negative value to a basketball team is his negative impact in the possession game, where he is this 6'10 power forward who brings really no offensive rebounding value, who defensively does not force any turnovers whatsoever. And so he can bog you down a little bit there. And then you also have just the very slow pace of play that he often leads to, and part of that is the slow decision-making. But even though Orlando has played a little bit faster this year, Paolo has never, ever gotten the most out of what should be his transition scoring value. I'm just so out on him. He is just such a deeply flawed offensive player, such an inefficient, frankly unserious offensive player for a totally unserious playoff offense. Franz, I do still believe in more, because I do think there's a level of consistency with him as a driver. I think the decision-making is much better. The outside shot is obviously a question with him too. Bane, I think, has been playing really well. And you look at Anthony Black, and it's boy, he's had an encouraging season, right? He's really stepped up offensively. But then you think about what it looks like in a playoff series, and I just worry so much about pretty much all of their important players and how they fare offensively. I worry about Jalen Suggs, and I worry about the inconsistency of his outside shooting, because we're now looking at back-to-back years where he's a 32% three-point shooter. I worry about Franz and his over-the-top shot making and his shooting off the catch as well, and what if teams are just able to really play off of him and induce him to put up 7 threes a game and he makes 15-20% of them. We saw it last year, and he was still able to have some success because he was so good inside the arc, so good as a driver, but even though he's been shooting it better this year, that concern lingers in my mind. Paolo, again, I'm just totally out on right now with how horrific his shooting and how bad his decision-making has been. And then Anthony Black, it's I still really worry about the perimeter shot with him. It's just super concerning half-court offense, another team that really struggles in that regard, another team that is just a well below average offense. They're 19th in offensive rating this year, and the defense hasn't been what it was in recent years, where in recent years it was really like the top 3 level defense that was carrying them to the playoffs. If you look at 2024 and 2025, they were bad offenses, but elite defenses. Now this year, they're a pretty bad offense, a little better than the last couple years, but still bad. And they are like just a good, not great defense. They're 15th in net rating. They're an average basketball team. That's pretty much all I have to say about it. So yeah, I also would sell any Magic stock if I had it. I'm going to go to the other conference. This is my big sell, Logan. And I mentioned this the other week on a show as well, but I'm just like way, way out on the Houston Rockets, especially to where I was at preseason. I thought this was one of the top 4 contenders to me, right? And I was worried very much so about the Van Vliet injury, but I still thought there's enough talent on this team. There's enough depth. I mean, they just have some supreme athletes and a defensive ceiling they can reach that is so elite, and the margin they create on the offensive glass. And yes, it's going to be funky offensively, but can it be good enough? And it looked like for a couple months the answer was yes, right? This team was really producing at an elite level offensively. It's just completely fallen off. Since January 1st, they are 14-11 overall. They're 24th in offensive rating. They're 14th in net rating. They are 29th in threes made, 27th in three-point percentage. Yet another team where, like, you could not be more worried about the lack of perimeter shooting, but it goes beyond that with them. It's just the lack of perimeter skill overall. I mean, a guard, an actual ball-handling guard for the Rockets has been as glaring a need as any this entire season because, you know, the guy who was going to do that went down for the season, and they never addressed it in any way. I think we have seen beyond a shadow of a doubt that Şengün is overtasked in this offense and is still just too inefficient a scorer, too limited when it comes to his ability to put the ball in the basket efficiently, right? If it's the finishing issues, the touch issues, still the complete lack of any sort of jump shooting game. He's really struggling as a scorer again since January 1st, under 18 points per game on under 52% true shooting. So it's the lack of outside shooting that really, really hurts them. It's the lack of ball handling, especially you go up against an elite defense that's going to apply ball pressure, and you just feel like they're going to force you into a bunch of turnovers, and they're going to keep you from creating any sort of dribble penetration. And the Rockets have struggled with turnovers this year, and they're a 20th percentile half-court offense overall. And like over the last couple months specifically, they've been up there for the worst half-court offense in the NBA. I think the underratedly damaging loss for them has been Steven Adams going down for the year, because he was just such an impactful player. Like, they were a plus 13 net team in his minutes. They are not even a plus 4 net team in the minutes without him overall this year. So a big swing there. They are still an elite offensive rebounding team even without him, right? I mean, Şengün is really good there. Amen is excellent there. They have dudes who are really good on the offensive glass, but with Adams, they were a historic offensive rebounding team, and that could make them like feel unstoppable at times, right? As clunky as the spacing was, if you just generate second chance, third chance, which are inherently more efficient because you're going up against a scramble defense and you're generally securing possession in the paint, right, where you have putback opportunities or you can make kick-out passes to open three-point shooters. They've lost a fair bit of that value, and their defense has really dropped off with Adams off the court. They're 7 points worse defensively without him. I think that is in large part due to Şengün not being good defensively this year. So there's just so much that concerns me. Like, I essentially worry about every important player for this offense too. Like, I do not believe in the offense at all. I really worry about Şengün with his scoring issues. I really worry about Amen with the fact that, I mean, his jump shooting has somehow been even worse than last year. And I worry about, okay, against an elite playoff defense, right, is he able to deliver value when you can totally ignore him off ball, and on ball you can play so far off of him? Like, it's just such an easy major weakness to scheme around. They totally lack reliable spot up guys. Like, who do you look at here? And it's like, who do you trust off the catch, right? Reed Shepherd and KD off the catch. And then other than that, it's like Tari Eason is having a really good jump shooting season. He's pretty good. But then it's like Jabari, he's okay. And then you just have like some flat out non-shooters here who play huge minutes. So the spacing is just so ugly. And KD is not a true lead offensive option at this stage, right? Against teams that are truly elite athletically, that play with a ton of physicality, he can be bothered. He obviously is an elite jump shooter, and that's going to translate in basically every matchup. But you can force him into a spot where he has some turnover issues where maybe he's not really making plays for others because you're forcing him into a super jump shot heavy diet. And so, yeah, I just think overall, so much that concerns me about the offense. The defense has just been good, not great. I really thought this defense was going to be awesome with the athleticism, with the length, with the range that they have, and it just hasn't been the case. And then I guess additionally, you hit him with the KD shitting on his teammates tax. Real or not, we don't know, but that's definitely another thing that is just sort of creating this stink around the Rockets right now. But we don't have to go there. We can just keep it to the basketball. The basketball formula, it just has such a massive fatal flaw. Like, all year I've been saying about the Lakers, okay? Why do I not think that they're, like, actually a very good basketball team? They have such a major glaring weakness, which is really just their overall team defense, that, like, I know that is going to get exposed by good playoff teams. It is going to prevent them from making a run, right? If you have something that is F level, something that is a huge red flag, I'm out on you. I'm out on you because I know it's going to get exposed at some point. The Rockets are, like, in that tier now of pretty much fake teams that have such a fatal flaw that they will get got because of it. This offense will break down in a playoff series. Maybe they survive the first round. They're not getting through the second round. And so, yeah, I feel like about them as I do the Lakers in that way. I mean, obviously they're totally different flaws, but when you just have something that is such a major issue, I don't think there's a way for them to get past that.
I think you're framing it in the exact right way, though. When we looked at the Rockets at the beginning of this year, the reason they were a top 3 to 5 contender to us was because they had two superpowers. It was their ability to generate all those extra possessions on the glass and to be an elite defense. And now they had the obvious red flag with Van Vliet, and it's bad. Like, they don't have anybody that can put the ball on the floor and create dribble penetration, man. Like, I'm thinking about it. They would kill for a player like Peyton Pritchard or somebody that skilled, or
my God, yeah,
somebody you could put the ball in their hands. And I'm talking about some of these concerns. There are a lot of teams with bad half-court offenses, right? If we're talking about Toronto and Orlando that have some of these flaws, Houston's among one of the least skilled teams in basketball when it comes to that regard. Like, you just don't trust anybody. I've been out on Houston. I'm still out on them. I completely agree with you. Like, I think they could win a first-round playoff series, but I think the chances of them going on a run or doing actual damage are completely gone. I mean, they have just been completely leapfrogged to me by teams in the Western Conference like a Minnesota, like a San Antonio. I've soured on Houston, and I think it's pretty clear that their days are numbered.
Yeah, they just don't have it. Like, there isn't an elite playmaker in this offense. There isn't a reliable ball handler in this offense. The shooting is so bad overall. And, like, the only guy who is a reliable high-level scorer here is Kevin Durant, who, like, you know, is going to get his 26 a game efficiently. But even that isn't the most impactful in the context of this team offense that so desperately needs somebody who can be a lead ball handler, who can be a lead playmaker, who can get into the teeth of the defense to create for others. And, like, KD isn't doing any of that stuff, so he can't save this offense. It's really been worst case scenario with, like, Amen not progressing at all. Şengün, again, having the good starts of the year, but it's been so bad since then. Everything just feels like it's been as bad as you could have expected for the Rockets coming into the year. And then the Adams injury, absolutely, like you said, I mean, significantly diminishing the two biggest strengths for this team. Nobody really defending quite at the level that they were last year. It's just a lot of disappointment in Houston. It really is. And I think of all the teams we've talked about, they are the worst half-court offense. Like, it's just unserious, especially when you get to the playoffs and it's like, all right, now we are keying in on what is your flaw? What are we attacking? What are we going to exploit? There are several things that you can attack with this Houston offense, but, like, that lack of spot-up shooting and three-point shooting overall, that lack of ball handling, I'm sorry, those are pretty much the two biggest concerns you can have about an offense. So I'm all the way out on the Rockets. Sad to say, you know, I love my boy Amen. I had some hope for this team, but they're just not going to do anything meaningful in the playoffs. Let's flip back to positivity, though, Logan. Let's positivity, Max. Who are you buying? Who is team number 3 that you're buying?
It's not a team, actually.
Oh, look at me. What a fool I am. I've got egg on my face.
It's not specifically a player either. It's interrelated, kind of like your Bulls play intake. I think you should be buying right now before the market gets hip to it.
Defensive guards. Say it.
Oh, I
Oh.
wish I had one of those takes.
Oh.
I'm buying up as much Cade Cunningham MVP stock as I can right now, while the odds are still kind of decent. He's at plus 650. And I just think for a guy whose team is just 2 games behind the Thunder in terms of their record, SGA
Well, they have the best winning percentage in the NBA.
They do have the best winning percentage in the NBA. That is true. For a guy for a team that could win the most games in the NBA this season, that team, the OKC Thunder, SGA is going to miss a little bit more time. He could outplay him in terms of just total games. Like, I just think Cade's got a really intriguing MVP case depending on how the standings shake out. I just think at the end of the year, now I want to be clear about something. If it's close, I think I would give the MVP to SGA. He would be my pick. I just think he has been impeccable this season. But if SGA ends up missing, Cade plays 5 to 10 more games than SGA, I think there's a real potential that he could be the pick. I mean, his numbers are gaudy. The Pistons are going to win the Eastern Conference. I can say that pretty confidently. They have such a great defense behind them, too. And I have just been so impressed with Cade's shot-making ability, man. His 3-ball's been really good as of late, and his off-the-dribble shot-making has been impeccable all season long. Cade's awesome, man. And I just think there is a world where Jokic and SGA have missed enough games in which his case could be close to undeniable. And I could see voters being like a little bit of voter fatigue at play here, but I think Cade's got a real shot, man. And I really like his odds at this stage in the season. I only think those odds are going to continue to get closer and closer to – I don't think they're ever going to get to negative, but I think I could see Cade getting up near plus 300, plus 200 where Jokic is. And I still think there's a little bit of value in his MVP stock right now where it intrigues me, man. Cade is having a special, special season, and I think the chances of him taking home MVP are very real.
The only value in Cade's MVP stock is if Shai and Jokic do not qualify, if they both fail to meet the 65 games played requirement. Other than that, to me at least, there is not a world in hell in which Cade actually makes a better MVP case than those two guys. They just absolutely clear him as basketball players. But, I mean, there is a real possibility where he wins by default, where he wins because those guys don't qualify. And again, maybe Wemby doesn't qualify and maybe Luka doesn't qualify. Like, he's the only player who's safe in terms of the game played threshold. But if Shai ends up playing 67 games or 66 games, whatever, and Cade plays 75, like, no, in no world is that 8 or 9 game difference that Cade played more games making up for the major difference in terms of per game value. Like, it's nothing against Cade. Cade is having a great season. Shai and Jokic are just both at like top 10 peaks of all time. Like, Shai is a guy who is going to do such insane work as a scorer. Like, historic scoring season, right? Mount Rushmore scoring regular season is what he's doing right now, where he's almost plus 10% relative true shooting, averaging 32 a game. As we talk about, never turning the ball over, lowest turnover player ever to have this sort of offensive volume and volume as a scorer. He's going to improve your offense so dramatically that he can fit in and he can be part of this historic team defense. And overall, like, his team's going to produce like a plus 16 net rating when he's on the court. The things that Shai does to propel an offense, like, it's just on a totally different level from Cade. And I think that Cade has done a really good job of dramatically raising the floor for that Detroit offense, where he has to work with some subpar spacing and there's not a lot of talented creators around him whatsoever. Like, I give him props, but still, I mean, the gap in scores is so massive. The gap in terms of turnover suppression is still so massive. Like, if you just look at the points per possession that these guys are responsible for ending, right? Be that through scoring or a turnover or an assist or whatever, like, Shai is still gapping Cade. And it's because of that massive difference in scoring value, where Shai is magnitudes better as a scorer on every level, where Cade does still have some issues finishing efficiently around the basket. Cade does still have issues in terms of his efficiency as a three-point shooter. Meanwhile, Shai is like all-time efficient at the basket from the mid-range, and he's shooting close to 40% from three. Yeah, there's just no case there. And then it's like Nikola Jokic is averaging 29, 12 and a half, and 10 and a half on 69% true shooting, leading the league, like having one of the greatest offensive seasons ever. I just think there's no world, man. I mean, they're just such better basketball players unless they literally do not meet the requirements.
I think the value's there.
To bet on Cade because you're betting that those guys aren't going to play enough games? I see that. Well, I just don't see a world in which we get there and Shai has played 65 games, Jokic has played 65 games, and it's not one of those two who's MVP. Like, I think that's
the crux of the argument. I think that's a real possibility. I also think there's just a real possibility in which the narrative swings because the Pistons win more games than anybody else in the NBA, and it's like, damn, Cade's the best player on the team, and they just de facto swing it to him. I agree with what you're saying. I think those guys are having historic campaigns, but Cade has a real shot at this award, and I think that at plus 650, that's kind of crazy to me, that it's that high.
I think that's because people are banking on SGA still playing more than 65 games, and if he does, he's a lock. And I do think that SGA is still going to play more than 65 games. And again, I think if you just look at impact in the team context, right? I mean, not only do we look at Shai and Jokic and we say, okay, obviously they're just better players. I mean, the numbers are way better, right? They are magnitudes more efficient as offensive players than Cade, who's still below league average true shooting and is still, again, a decently high turnover player, although he's got a huge ball handling load and he's cut down on that from last year. It's more just like Shai is so exceptional in that regard that that's a clearing. Then you look at just the impact on their team's results, and it's like, yeah, Shai's got a plus 10 on off swing. And again, his team is better than a plus 15 and a half net team when he's on the floor. Jokic, even though his team won a good percentage of their games without him, and like they deserve a lot of credit for that. And that's why I think, like, if it's Shai versus Jokic, that's a component in why I think Shai has the better case right now. I mean, Jokic still has this massive plus 15 on off swing, right? I mean, they are a historic offense when he is on the court. And Cade is just not delivering that level of impact. He is a solid part of an elite team defense, and he does a lot for that offense, but he still overall just has that plus 5 on off swing because he is not nearly as impactful an offensive player as the other two.
I mean, I agree with that fundamentally. If you take Cade off this team, do they make the playoffs?
I think that there's a lot of similarities with all these guys, and that's what I refer back to, which is that they have been better in the minutes without their stars and even in the games without their stars than you might have expected. So I don't think that that argument favors Cade relative to Shai or Jokic. Like, if you take Shai or Jokic off their teams, I think that ultimately their teams drop off by more than Cade's because, I mean, they're better than Cade. And that's where, again, we've seen all of these teams find success in the minutes without their best guys, right? Like the Thunder, they are still like a plus 5 net team with Shai off the court. The Nuggets, I think they're a slightly negative net team, but they've won the games. And then like the Pistons, I just think that defense being so insane is really underrated to me because like the Thunder, they are able to convincingly win the non-Cade minutes. Like they do. Again, they're 5-1 without him. They're better than a plus 5 net team without him, even though the offense sucks because the defense is that great. The difference between Shai and Cade, who have a lot of similarities in terms of, okay, put a great team defense around me that doesn't have a lot of offensive talent and I can just carry the offense, is Shai carries the offense to different heights. And there are people who will say, oh, but he has more offensive talent around him. But look at their numbers in minutes when he's out there without J-Dub. That's often when he leads them to their best offensive results, when he leads them to like a 125 offensive rating. And I mean, what he did in that stretch without J-Dub, again, 23-4. I think the Thunder are like a plus 20 net team in minutes when Shai is out there without J-Dub. Like, Shai's just so much better than Cade. That's all it comes down to. I don't even want to make an anti-Cade argument. I just can see this narrative coming, and I think it's such a bad argument. And I think it is so dependent on like not wanting to give another MVP to a guy who's already gotten one. But I think clearly the Pistons would not be nearly as good a basketball team without Cade, but I still think the drop-off is slightly less significant than it would be if you took SGA off the Thunder or Jokic off the Nuggets, and I think the numbers bear that out as well.
I just think Cade enhances everybody on his team, and I mean, he just plays such an important role for I just don't want to – I don't underappreciate Cade. I think Cade belongs in these conversations.
Cade is awesome. He's going up against two players who are coming off of what was the greatest two-man MVP race in NBA history, and both of those players are now probably having better seasons than they did last year. Both of them have been more efficient. I mean, Shai has had an even better scoring season. Jokic has had, I would say, an even better offensive season. The team offense has reached even higher heights. His efficiency has been even greater. The volume has been identical. It's nothing against Cade, truly. But if Shai and Jokic are eligible, one of them has to win this award.
I'm not saying I disagree. I mean, I'm saying I would probably give it to SGA, but I think Cade belongs in these convos. I don't think he sticks out like a sore thumb.
Okay, I do. I think against healthy SGA and Jokic, there are tiers between those guys as players and Cade Cunningham. And there's
I think
zero
the
doubt in my mind
value
about that.
they are providing to their teams is really similar.
I don't. I just do not believe that. I think that, yeah, well, we can run in circles here. Again, the heights of offense that you can reach when you are building around Shai, one of the greatest scoring weapons ever, or when you are building around Jokic, who has this GOAT-level combination of scoring, playmaking, and all of the other things that he does, his offensive versatility, his value as a screener, his value as an offensive rebounder, as a creator and a play finisher, right? All these things, I mean, they are simply just so much better, I'm sorry, than Cade when it comes to carving up any defense, right? Like, Cade is going to struggle to be a very efficient basketball player. Again, he's got this huge load on his plate, but because he relies so much on the intermediate range where he is good, but he is not Shai. On all two-pointers outside the restricted area, all those intermediate twos, Cade shoots 45%. Shai shoots over 55%. That's a big difference. Like, the thing here is that Shai and Jokic are just reaching such astronomical heights offensively. Cade, in comparison against that crazy, crazy high bar, is just clearly a significantly more flawed offensive player. He turns the ball over more. He struggles to shoot more from beyond the arc. He's not near the level of rim finisher. His free throw rate has gone up, but it's still not nearly there.
Do you think
at like Shai's level?
I mean, I think he amplifies his teammates too. I don't want to just wipe away Cade's 100%. Playmaking value.
Bro, I'm not wiping away anything. I just don't know why we're comparing Cade to Shai and Jokic.
I'm just saying
now.
Cade belongs. I think Cade. I think both of those guys are better than Cade. I just think Cade belongs in this upper echelon of when we're talking MVP talks. I think Cade's right there with both of those guys. I think he makes a great case.
Okay, where do you have Cade ranked as an NBA player right now?
He would,
because I'm trying to figure out what is the difference between how good the players are and MVP talks. Because if the difference is narrative,
I think Cade
I don't want to factor that in at all.
10 to me, top 15, somewhere in that range.
And SGA and Jokic are 1 and 2, right?
Yeah.
In whatever order. Like, that's kind of it right there, man. That's where I think, again, like, unless it's a literal health eligibility question, I am not a believer that somebody who is the 10th best player in the NBA can ever win MVP. I am not a believer that that person can ever deliver the most value over the course of a season because they're the 10th best player or whatever. And I think that that sort of logic is how you get really bad MVP cases. That's how you get, 2021 Jazz, they had the best record. So is Donovan Mitchell the MVP? Is Rudy Gobert the MVP? Right? Like,
I just don't think it's that egregious. I don't think it's that egregious.
MVP?
I think Cade has a better case than that kind of argument.
I think Cade has a better case too because I think he does so much heavy lifting for the offense. But I still think, again, the superpower of the team is the defense. The offense is just like good. Whereas Shai has this team that has this elite historic defense, and he takes the offense to be great. I mean, and there are so many skill differences that we can point to.
I agree. There's only 1.5 points of offensive rating that separate when SGA is on the court versus when Cade's on the court for Detroit. For Jokic, it's a much bigger gap. Like, I think SGA's at like a 122. 0.5 offensive rating with him out there. Cade's at like 121.
I think.
Jokic is at 128. So, like, yeah, they're better leading out results. I just think the Pistons win like 35 to 40 games if you don't have a guy like Cade. And I think Cade elevates them to this elite level.
Yeah, I think that their offense would fall apart just like I think the Thunder offense falls apart without Shai. And people are going to say, oh my God, but the Thunder just won a couple games without Shai. And again, the Pistons have won games without Cade, and they've won minutes without Cade. And I think collectively people can undervalue these elite team defenses. Both guys are carrying the offenses. One of them is simply better at it, simply a lot better at it, and that's Shai over Cade. So I don't think that's a conversation. I think it's a conversation that may pop up, and not going to be my favorite conversation. I'll just say that. I really hate it when we get in this narrative bag with MVP stuff. And also, I just think the 65-game minimum, like, historically, right, you haven't been eligible to win MVP if you play under 65 games regardless, right? It hasn't been an official thing until these recent years, but the only player to ever do it in a full 82-game season was Bill Walton in 1978. However, this year is just such an exception where it's like, all of the best players are hovering around that 65 game mark outside of Cade, I still think Wemby is more impactful than Cade, right? I still think that he would make a better case. So if we're just saying, all right, who do you think makes the best MVP case? Cade would be fourth for me, and the top two, SGA and Jokic, are in a tier of their own. I do have another Eastern Conference bye, Logan, and I've talked about this team a lot, so I don't want to belabor any points. The Cleveland Cavaliers, I continue to buy stock, and I'm going to gobble it all up like a greedy little monster. They've won 12 of their last 14 games. In that time, they are the number one offense in basketball, the number 6 defense. The Harden fit has just been great. I mean, he has propelled this offense to such elite heights alongside Donovan Mitchell. 128.4 offensive rating when he's on the court. The Cavs offense has been great with Mitchell on the court all year. Now Harden is somebody who can complement him, but also carry the non-Mitchell minutes, which is so significant. He's been so efficient. 19, 5, and 9 on 68% true shooting. Just phenomenal stuff there. And has really been a pretty seamless fit here, right? Like, hasn't bogged down the pace meaningfully for this team. Hasn't demanded to be like a super high volume on-ball player. He's just been very, very efficient with his touches and his offensive responsibilities and been an elite second creator. Made life heaven for Jared Allen, who's averaging 21 and 12 on 76% true shooting since James Harden joined the team. And so that fit has been excellent there. The synergy between those two. I think Mobley is also going to benefit a lot from Harden's playmaking value as he gets back out there and healthy now. So just a phenomenal elite team offense. I think the combination of elite perimeter creation they have, of elite spot-up shooting they have, of the play finishing they have from their bigs, the overall passing field that they have. Cavs should be the best offense in the conference, although the Celtics are also elite there. But those two are like clearly my top two choices. And then they've got the formula to be a legit good team defense. I would like to see them consistently care more about that side of the ball, but at least with Harden's size compared to a Garland, right? Harden is not somebody who is able to be picked on in that same way. He is somebody who can fit in better to a team context, who can switch capably and guard bigger players, who can provide some value as a team defender with his size and length. And so I think, there's a clear path here to them being an elite offense, a top 10 defense. I've said all this stuff. The only couple dudes I want to shout out who are new to the equation outside of Harden, I really do like what they've gotten out of a couple of two-way guards in Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis. I think those were phenomenal pickups at the deadline, especially because they turned DeAndre Hunter, who had been bad, into those two guys. You're not going to see it with the scoring efficiency with either of these guys, but they're doing what they're supposed to do. Schroeder has come in, and he has been somebody who defensively, right, can apply ball pressure, can force turnovers, 3.1 stocks per 36 minutes. And offensively, even though, again, the scoring efficiency, the shooting hasn't been there yet, his speed, his value as a playmaker, somebody who can get into the teeth of the defense, has been there. He's averaging 7.2 assists per 36 minutes, and they've just convincingly won his minutes. They're a plus 51 in his minutes so far. That's raw plus minus over 6 games. And then Keon Ellis, again, just another guy who can swing games defensively with effort and a really good shooter, but it's mostly been the defense that has stood out so far. He's averaging 4.4 stocks per 36 with the Cavs, and he's got a plus 52 plus minus. So just adding more depth, more lineup versatility to this team, for whom I do think depth is a strength. I just think they're really checking all the boxes for being a true title contender to me. Elite offense, very good defense, multiple star creators, again, good play finishers, good shooting, well-coached, good team defense. They got the dual rim protector thing with Mobley and Allen. And so, as I was saying earlier, like Boston and Cleveland now, to me, are two of the 4 best teams in the NBA. I think it goes OKC, Denver, who have been the top 2 all year for me since before the year. And now I like Boston and Cleveland more than anybody else. That's pending Jason Tatum's health for Boston. I do think, again, we're going to need to see this team show a level of dog and physicality and like intensity that I think is the one area where you can question a Jared Allen who can kind of get punked sometimes. You can question a James Harden who, against really elite physical perimeter defenses in the playoffs, you can kind of take him out of his game a little bit, right? And he does have these moments where he's sort of sleepwalking defensively. I think all the talent is there, and I've been a Cavs optimist all year. I remain one. The thing that I just want to see is, all right, I want to see them get up to the fight. And I did feel like It's kind of why they lost to the Thunder, right? They rallied in that game, but they go down 25-5 because they just get smacked in the mouth, and they're just being a little lackadaisical, and Harden has some bad turnovers early, and the Thunder are just like totally destroying them in transition. That's the kind of stuff that Cleveland just can't have happen, and they need to flip that switch. But they've been an elite team for a while now. The only other thing I would really say about them is I need to see Evan Mobley make a jump shot. For the love of God, dude. Like, he just got back out there, but, you know, last real possession of the game, they're down 5. He gets a wide open 3 on the wing, and it's just like, doesn't feel like he thinks he's going to make that. I don't think he's going to make that. Again, him regressing to a 30% three-point shooter, that's kind of the one flaw in this offense right now that is otherwise so great. But I'm pretty much all in on the Cavs. Like, I think they're a wagon. I think they're a powerhouse at this point.
Yeah, it's close between them and Boston to me. I would lean Cleveland. Cleveland would be my favorite out of the Eastern Conference right now. And a lot of it does have to do with Harden. I really like his fit and a lot of the things you mentioned. Coming into that game against OKC, they were undefeated with Harden. They had won 7 straight games. But it has more to do, I think, again, with Cleveland's depth. This thing that I'm talking about, though, is just trusting bench units. The Cleveland's bench unit is what got them back in that game against OKC. Sam Merrill fucking hitting every three-pointer that he looked at. I mean, Cleveland's just got a lot of guys they can turn to, right? If it's Jalen Tyson, if it's Dean Wade. I love the additions of Schroeder and Keon Ellis. You mentioned Schroeder collapsing the defense. I just like the energy and the mentality that those guys have brought off the bench. You're talking about Cleveland playing up to, you know, this level that they need. I think those are two of the right kind of identity guys that they need to, I'd say, change the culture, but more so establish that kind of mentality within this team. And I keep waiting on Max Strus to get healthy. Cleveland has stars that I trust. They've got two-way guys that I believe in on offense and on defense. And Donovan Mitchell is just one of the best pure scorers in the NBA. We continue to talk about how underrated he is just a superstar across this league and how underappreciated he is. But Cleveland's got depth. They've got offensive superstars. They've got defensive guys I trust. Like you mentioned, there's some things on the margin that I need to see come together, but I do look at Cleveland as the total package. I think if you press me right now, I would take them out of the Eastern Conference. I don't know if I can get there with you on top 4. I still really do like San Antonio.
Yeah.
I still really like Minnesota a fair bit. It's close between these teams to me, so I may lean them, but Cleveland would be my favorite in the East.
San Antonio is definitely the other team in the top 5, and I mean, they're still rattling off wins. They've won 8 straight. The thing is, I do just worry about their offense a lot more, and their defense is elite, right? It's clearly a top 3 defense in the NBA with OKC and Detroit, and Wemby changes every single game on that side in an unparalleled way. I just worry about the reliance on some questionable outside shooters. I do have some questions about Wemby, right, against teams that are going to swarm a lot. Does his passing hold up? Can he, run into some challenging physical matchups where physicality ramps up in the playoffs? That's where I do feel really confident about the Cavs offense. And I know some people will say, oh, but what about Harden fading in the second half of playoff series? I think when he is consistently drawing opposing defense's second best perimeter defenders, and when he also is the second option for you, so the burden on him is lessened, I just don't worry about it as much. I think Mitchell has a crazy takeover scoring gear, and I think Harden has the ability to be a very efficient second option who doesn't have to ratchet the volume up like he was asked to in Los Angeles, where he was really, the leading offensive option, right? Kawhi was the leading scorer, but Harden had the most offensive responsibility overall, or even Philly, where he's so far and away the leading perimeter creator for those teams. It's not that I have no concerns about Harden offensively in a playoff series. I just think they matter less here, and overall, his skill set is supremely valuable for them and is part of an offensive formula that I feel really good about overall. So, yeah, I really, really do like the Cavs. And obviously with Boston, it's all kind of a hypothetical of, is Tatum healthy? We will have to see. All right, I just want to shout out 2 more buys, a couple of bonus buys. Ty Jerome. Doesn't matter this year. Bro's just back and balling. 19, 3, and 6 on 66% true shooting. Just such a supremely gifted offensive player. And then this one, I want to say the Joel Embiid 76ers. I don't know if they exist. Logan thinks they don't exist. He's been very clear about that.
They are on my. I don't have any stock, but they would be my final sell. Yeah.
I am a cautious believer. Now, again, the caveat here is Embiid being healthy, but since January 1st...
Cautious is a good word.
Yeah, I'm trying to be realistic. I just think the vision is there for them to be a very good team. I've felt that way all year. I think I've been higher on Philly than most all year. Since January 1st, they're 12-5 when he plays. He has been elite as a scorer, 30 points a game on over 64% true shooting. Maxey having a phenomenal season. They've got wings that I like. There's a lot that I like here in terms of a two-way formula. It does hinge on Embiid being out there and being awesome. And so, yeah, I don't believe in that enough, unfortunately, to say, hey, I'm buying at this point, but I do like them. I am, again, very cautiously optimistic about that vision. All right, Logan, who is your final sell?
Philly.
Oh, wow. How about that? How about that?
I just don't believe in it. I picked Philly not because I have stock in them, but because other people may have stock in Philadelphia, and this is me imploring you to short it before it's too late. It has everything to do with Joel Embiid. It has nothing to do with the supporting cast. I've been blown away at how Philly has been able to pivot and find real gems within their rotation. If it's an old guy like Andre Drummond who can still give you really good value off the bench, if it's, the Dominic Barlows and Trendon Watfords and Justin Edwards of the world, like they've been able to squeeze some value out of those guys. I do think there's a lot to like about Philly. They've got a ton of really good athletes on the wing and guys like Quentin Grimes and Kelly Oubre. Tyrese Maxey is just a bona fide superstar, and that's the selling point. But I was going to take some low-hanging fruit here for my final sell. I feel like I shit on the New York Knicks with a certain amount of regularity, so I didn't feel like raking them over the coals again. That argument's not going to be too different. For Philadelphia, my argument's not going to be too different. I think they would need some version of Joel Embiid for the playoffs, and that guy doesn't exist anymore to me. And I think they would need some version of a solid Paul George. And even though Paul George has been out there and he's actually been decent in some of his minutes, he hasn't been super efficient, but he's been versatile. I just don't see it ever materializing for Philadelphia in a meaningful way where, like a lot of these other teams, I see Philadelphia as a pretty easy first-round exit. I think Embiid, if you're lucky, plays 2 to 3 games. Maybe one of those 2 to 3 games, he has a good one, and then Philly gets bounced in the first round. I want to give them credit for finding as much success as they have this season. Philadelphia was in a less than enviable position coming into this season. I think they crushed it by getting a guy like VJ Edgecombe in the draft. Tyrese Maxey is a bona fide superstar in this league. He's so damn consistent. He's so much fun to watch. And they've, again, like from where they were last season, this is an encouraging spot to be in. But when I think you're talking about some of these bigger picture things, them winning a playoff series, them going on a playoff run, them winning the East, that's where I'm cutting ties with Philadelphia. And I'm not the biggest Philadelphia guy. I never have been. So I am just out on this team in the back half of this season.
Yeah, I mean, let me be clear. I'm not talking about any world in which they're winning the East. Like, I just think, although they have a clear path to being a good team on both sides of the ball, there's still not enough reliable three-point shooting here. The defensive ceiling isn't high enough. Like, I just think they can be, like, fringe top 10 levels on both sides of the ball, maybe an actual top 10 offense when Maxey and Embiid are out there together doing their thing. But that's why I, again, put the qualifier of if Embiid is healthy, which, yeah, I guess you can argue, like, invalidates the whole thing because you just never know. And obviously PG is hurt again now, and you never know with him. And there's a lot of reasons to think, yeah, things are not going to work out fairy tale style for the Sixers. I do think, though, like you said, I mean, the fact that they are still sitting here and they are still 5 games above 500, even with Embiid missing a lot of time and PG missing a lot of time, it's been a really encouraging season for them for a number of reasons. So even if things don't come together and even if we don't see them play up to their potential, I still think it's a very good year for them overall. And I do still think that there is potential there. I will say, Logan, the team whose potential I am getting very, very much lower on is the Phoenix Suns. They are my final sell. Jaylen Green is back, and I fear that is the worst possible news for Suns fans. He is still so bad. I mean, he just comes out and he's immediately shooting tour dates. 48% true shooting this year. 44% on two-pointers. 31% on three-pointers. My God. He's just so bad. I'm sorry. Like, he is so slight and so weak going up around the basket. His finishing is so subpar because of that. He has issues as a driver overall just because of, his major struggles with physicality. I think he got blocked like 5 times in the Magic game, just repeatedly getting swallowed up. And then, in part because of that, he doesn't get to the rim at a very high rate, and he's very reliant on his jump shooting, which is highly erratic and overall below average. 31% from 3 this year, 34% from 3 in his career. His decision-making sucks. Like, we can say all the same Jaylen Green stuff. The guy is just wearing a new jersey now. He's still the same player, and that's still a bad player, and there's a reason that Houston was markedly worse with him on the floor every season. 5 points per 100 possessions worse overall with Jaylen Green on the floor. So we know who he is. I just feel bad for Jordan Knott because I think he's a great coach, but I think his hands are really tied here. Like, I think he has to play Jaylen Green, and he has to play in pretty big minutes because they're paying him $33 million a year. He was the player in the KD deal, right? He was ostensibly sort of like the big fish that they landed, I guess, the building block. We were always very clear about the fact that he is not that because he's bad. But, just with draft bias and some of the highlights, I guess people were optimistic that he would be a guy for them. But I think him being on the floor really hurts the Suns. I genuinely do because, he hurts their defensive formula, and offensively he is an extremely inefficient player and a negative playmaker overall. And I also just think the offense has fallen off overall, which was kind of predictable. They're 18th in offensive rating. My big concern with this team's offense was, I was worried about Jaylen Green coming back for them on both sides of the ball. I was also like, is Dillon Brooks going to keep up this level of shot making? And since January 15th, he's shooting 40% from the field, 51% true shooting. Like, he was having a career jump shooting season. Now he's hurt. Now he broke his hand. And so they do really need him. They need him to be like a 20-point per game scorer. But the concern is, can he do that with even decent efficiency? I don't buy it. And then now he's hurt. And then Booker is banged up again with a hip. And obviously they're so reliant on him offensively. And it just feels like everything is coming together for a collapse. They've been a very impressive team this year. I think their coaching has been great. I think they have found some diamonds in the rough. I think they really committed to the defensive end. And they got very good principles on both sides of the ball, honestly. But I just think talent and the lack of it is coming back to rear its ugly head. And they're only 5 games up on the Clippers and Blazers right now. Both those teams feel better to me, especially with these injuries compounding for the Suns. Like, I could see a real slide. I could see them falling badly in the standings. And when it comes to the playoffs, like, I've always said they're the most obvious first-round exit, like, scrappy team, right, squeezing all the juice out of what they have, but there's just a ceiling considering the lack of talent, especially offensive talent around Book, and I feel that way now more so than ever before.
Yeah, and it's just sad, man, because it's not like a talent issue with Jaylen Green. Like, the guy's...
It is kind of a talent issue, though, bro. I think that can get misconstrued. Like, he's just not a very good jump shooter, and we thought that he was going to be. And he has like a 2-week run every year where he is, but like on balance, he's just not good at it. He's just not an effective driver. With his first step, we thought that he would be, but the reality is because of his again, like major limitations in terms of being so slight, he's never actually been an effective driver rim finisher. He's not as functional an athlete as he is a flashy athlete. He's not as consistent a shooter as he is flashy a shooter. Like, he's just not as good as we thought he would be.
Functional's a good word. I just more so mean in terms of the play style and the give and take that you have with guys like that, where it's like, if you just played a different, it's like Paolo, right? Like, you're a bull in a china shop, and yet you play like you're a slight guard with like your shot diet sometimes, where with Jaylen Green, it's like you have this explosiveness and you have these things that could make you special, but again, it would take a commitment in playing a completely different brand of basketball. When you have a guy like that, Would I rather have him or a guy who's insanely defensively slanted but is going to bust his ass and do all the little things? I'd rather have that guy 10 times out of 10. I just mean that, like, he is a real detriment to your team. He's not an efficient shot maker. He is not a plus playmaker. He's not a good defender. Like, with these guys, they can be skilled, they can be flashy, but basketball is just more than how tough he is. And I feel bad for the Suns, man. It's kind of like you said, dude. Yeah, you may have gotten duped. What are you going to do? Throw your hands up and just admit that you got conned, that you got back a player that is not that valuable? No, you kind of can't, man. You kind of just have to play through it and hope that Jaylen Green gets better and figures it out. And I'm not on that boat, man. That ship has sailed, and I was not at the port.
Cooked. He's so cooked. And, like, I see what you're saying. The point that I'm making is I think sometimes we look at a Paolo, we look at a Jaylen Green, and we can say, oh, they have all the talent in the world, but it's just decision-making. It's just shot selection. And it's like, it's not that simple. The shot selection, the decision-making is a big part of it for both of them, but also Paolo is simply a terrible jump shooter. And, like, at some point, he's going to have to take jump shots, right, to keep a defense honest. Yes, he takes too many of them, but the big problem this year, and the big problem throughout his career, is he's the worst at making them of any volume jump shooter in the NBA. That is a skill issue. With Jaylen Green, I think it is way more clear. Like, there's a number of skill issues where, again, he struggles as a rim finisher. Like, last couple years, he's like just under 55% on shots inside of 8 feet. That's bad. This year, it's a crazy small sample size, but so far, he's 40% on shots inside of 8 feet. So around the basket, he is flat out ineffective. It's not just, oh, if he wanted to, he can get to the rim at will and be such an efficient finisher. No, he doesn't get to the rim much, and he's not good when he gets there. And then he has no intermediate game. He's never had a mid-range floater game. He sucks at all that. And then he's a super erratic three-point shooter who relies on it a lot because of everything that we've talked about. So he can have a sexy step back. He can have a couple weeks where he's raining those. He can have a drive where you're like, oh my God, look at that quickness off the bounce. And then, wow, look at that body control in the air. That was a really nice finish. Like, or just the raw vertical athleticism, right? Like some of the dunks that he's had in his career. But in between those few highlights, there are so many major flaws with him, not just as a basketball player, because that's what we often think about, right? Lacking defensively, lacking as a passer. As a scorer, he's just not nearly as good as you would think he is if you watch the 10 best highlights of his career. If you just kind of think about, like, in a lab, oh, but he's this fast and he jumps this high and he can create a shot for himself from beyond the arc like that. Like, and I'm saying that as somebody who, you know, I was always much lower on Green as a prospect than I was Mobley and Cade, but I did think that Jaylen Green was a very, very gifted scoring talent and just wasn't right about that. And I've been off him as an NBA player for a long time.
Yeah, and I thought he was a much better athlete, too, than
I agree.
He was.
100%. In terms of, like, actual functional athleticism, I thought he was going to be elite in a way that he has not been. I was thinking back, dude, 2023, I think it was November 2023, I said that I would clearly take Jalen Johnson over Jaylen Green and Josh Giddey. And at the time, people thought I was, like, rage baiting, joking. People were calling me nasty names and things, Logan. And I'm like, It's interesting what draft bias, being the second pick, being, frankly, a very good-looking guy, and having a couple sexy highlights can do for your reputation. Because Jaylen Green was living off that for a long time. By the way, even through Game 2 of the playoffs last year, there were still people who had Jaylen Green stock.
It's crazy that, you know, in pre-draft perspective, literally just where you go. Like, dude, Giddey was, I remember when we did that show during the draft process, and you were like, I like Josh Giddey as like a late first, second round kind of guy. You were like, he's underrated. And then he goes that high, and his perception completely changes. It really is fascinating how literally just draft position alone can skew the perspective of guys for years, man.
100%. And with Jaylen, it's like he was considered an elite prospect for years, and it was just a miss. And yeah, people will hold on to their preconceived notions for a while, but when bro is giving you 54% true shooting every year and is a negative in all the other areas of the game, he's a negative basketball player, and that's what he's always been. That's what he still is. So he did hit a game winner after going 6 of 26, but that game was so hideous, bro. Oh my God. Like watching somebody go 6 of 26 is crazy.
Yeah, it's like the pickup meme, the guy who just fucking chucks and then hits for game.
Yeah, that's Jaylen Green. That's the story of Jaylen Green's life, I suppose. Appreciate you guys tuning in to this buy and sell episode. Is there anybody else you want to shout out, good or bad, Logan, before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, I'll give a couple brief shouts. You mentioned the Cavs. Sure. I definitely had them as an honorable mention. And then I've talked about these teams a lot, so I didn't feel like I needed to run back in on them. But Spurs and Timberwolves, I definitely like in the Western Conference. They're both solid. They've got superstars I really believe in. And I think the West is just really going to be interesting this season. I cannot wait for the playoffs.
Ayo Dosunmu, Logan, my goodness, does he fire me up. Just that speed, man. Just the speed that he plays with in transition, his literal speed when he's like attacking off the catch. I mean, the lethality that he has as a shooter. I think like his quick attacks off ball have been the most fun part of him in Minnesota so far. And then when he locks in defensively, he can bring you value there. I think he was a really awesome pickup. I absolutely love the upgrade from Mike Conley, who was basically just, a warm body when he was out there, to a young, vivacious weapon like Ayo Dosunmu. That is an awesome move, and that does make me more excited for the Timberwolves. And yeah, I mean, the Spurs, they're just winning, man. They just keep winning. They're a damn good basketball team. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you want more Nerd Sesh content, you know where to find us. All of our full episodes are on YouTube. We have been ranking a ton of stuff recently. We took a little diversion from that today. We will be back to it later this week. But if you want to see us rank the top 10 NBA players to build around under 25, top 10 scorers ever, or the top 10 quarterback peaks ever, we addressed all of those last week. And also this weekend dropped a little Oscars podcast with the boy Jokic, Joestar, and S from The Athletic. That was a lot of fun. So if you're a movie lover, then you can tune into that one. You can listen to all of our pods across all audio platforms, and you can follow us across social everywhere, TikTok and Instagram at NerdSesh, Twitter at Nerd_Sesh to see all of our daily viral social media content. So with that, as always, I've been Carson Brabber.
I've been Logan Camden.
And this was Nerd Sesh.